skies. So here's to the racers, the Oval League's pride. Through every twist and turn we ride or die. In the Grind Cup Series we find who we are, chasing glory and victory beneath the virtual stars. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're burning the turns. Throttle wide open, feel the engines churn. It's the heart of the league where champions rise, pushing limits in the oval till we touch the skies. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're legends of me. The ESports Oval League driving the arcade. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're legends of me. The ESports Oval League driving the arcade. Under the lights, engines roar, we're ready to go. The ESports Oval League with the best race to show. Grinding gears, chasing dreams on the virtual track. No looking in the rear view, there's no turning back. Every lap it's a battle, every corner's a fight. Precision in the daytime, adrenaline at night. The Grind Cup Series, championship and mission. The goal we all crave, speed and skill define the legends we raise. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're burning the turns. Throttle wide open, feel the engines churn. It's the heart of the league where champions rise, pushing limits in the oval till we touch the skies. From the green flag to checkered, it's a razor thin edge, pushing harder with each second, living on the ledge, drafting on the straightaway, bumper to bumper. A split second mistake and you're going under. Pit stops time, perfect strategy in hand. Every driver, every team takes a bold stand. In the world of esports, this is where we collide. The Grind Cup unites us with passion and pride. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're burning the turns. Throttle wide open, feel the engines churn. It's the heart of the league where champions rise, pushing limits in the oval till we touch the skies. The tires screech, hearts pound, adrenaline's fire. Lap by lap, chasing that finish line desire. Rookies and legends all fight for the crown, but only one will take the title down. Every lap it's a battle, every corner's a fight. Precision in the daytime, adrenaline at night. The Grind Cup Series, championship and mission. The goal we all crave, speed and skill define the legends we raise. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're burning the turns. Throttle wide open, feel the engines churn. It's the heart of the league where champions rise, pushing limits in the oval till we touch the skies. From the green flag to checkered, it's a razor thin edge, pushing harder with each second, living on the ledge, drafting on the straightaway, bumper to bumper. A split second mistake and you're going under. From the green flag to checkered, it's a razor thin edge, pushing harder with each second, living on the ledge, drafting on the straightaway, bumper to bumper. A split second mistake and you're going under. Pit stops time, perfect strategy in hand. Every driver, every team takes a bold stand. In the world of esports, this is where we collide. The Grind Cup unites us with passion and pride. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're burning the turns. Throttle wide open, feel the engines churn. It's the heart of the league where champions rise, pushing limits in the oval till we touch the skies. So here's to the racers, the Oval League's pride. Through every twist and turn we ride or die. In the Grind Cup Series we find who we are, chasing glory and victory beneath the virtual stars. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're burning the turns. Throttle wide open, feel the engines churn. It's the heart of the league where champions rise, pushing limits in the oval till we touch the skies. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're legends of me. The ESports Oval League driving the arcade. Racing in the Grind Cup, we're legends of me. The ESports Oval League driving the arcade.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the continuation of the 2025 season for the ESports Oval League's Grind Cup Series. As here tonight, we are at the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway, our second Super Speedway stop on the schedule, race number 13 nearing the halfway point of this regular season. There's an old adage in super speedway racing: if you're in it, you can win it. We saw what kind of a wild card race the season opener at Daytona was. Talladega, it's longer, it's wider, it's faster. It's going to be a wild one here tonight. I'm Seth Cole, joined by my colleague Scott Rankin. He's donning the commentator suit here tonight in place of the driver's suit. And Scott, with these drivers here this evening, not only do we have the Dash for Cash drivers, which we'll be touching on in a little bit, but also an opportunity here for drivers that may be hovering just inside, just outside of the playoffs, or drivers right now that find themselves in a must-win situation to eventually battle for a championship. Big opportunity for a number of drivers here this evening.
Yeah, and thank you for having me in the booth yet again, Seth. This week, there's no steering wheel in front of me. There's no helmet placed on. Unfortunately, I'm going through the middle of a move at the moment, so I gotta get everything all nice and packed up a little bit early just to help out with all that stuff. Look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a fan of super speedways, so other people are. For the drivers in the middle of the back of the field, lottery race. It's one of those ones where your wins can come from, but also comes with a lot of pressure. I find it very. This is my own perspective, and personal preference be what may. But I really struggle to find a way to make an impact as a driver in these races. There's so much that's out of your control, and that's the big thing. Like I always want to feel as if I'm in control of my own destiny. At super speedways, I just never feel as if I've got that.
Yeah, very few drivers have the feeling of control in super speedway racing. There are some out there that they have a talent for this. They're able to see where the momentum is. They're able to get to the front, somehow stay at the front, keep everybody in the rearview mirror. There's other drivers, though, that I think we'll see here during the course of this race. They don't necessarily like what they see up ahead. They decide, all right, you know what? In order to finish first, I got to first finish this race. So they'll drop to the back, they'll ride around and try and get up there to the front at the close of this one. Now, something a little bit different here tonight as well. We've talked about the last 2 or so months how drivers have entered into these races with no faster pair to fall back on. Well, administration, with this being a super speedway race, have allowed tonight that there will be one mulligan available, one faster pair available, and it'll be interesting to see with that faster pair now that they haven't had for the last couple of months. How aggressive do we see them in the early going? Because I watched these drivers in practice. They did a couple of times where they practiced a restart. One of them was successful, the other one not so much. They ended up wrecking when they got into turn 1, but big picture racing here tonight. So yes, you have that faster pair, you have that mulligan, but you probably don't want to use that until much later on in this race.
Yeah, that's certainly a big part of it, So look, it's to me, it's just another resource. It's a resource the same way that tires are. It's a resource the same way that fuel is. It's a resource the same way that your aggression is, and the space that's around you. So, whilst you've got it, you can race a little bit harder. You know that you've got a backup in behind you. You've got some support. You can afford to make a mistake or just end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. The instant that safety net goes away, it's going to slow down a lot. You're going to see drivers completely and utterly change their behavior. They may hang off the back of the pack to try and give themselves a little bit more time. So, yeah, look, it's a big part. Is it a critical part? I think it's of the resources, it's probably the least important resource available to our drivers tonight, but it is definitely worthwhile talking about.
Absolutely. Well, we mentioned about the fact this is the third race in the Dash for Cash. We had a Dash for Cash race in the season opener at Daytona, the worn-out surface of Atlanta, and here tonight, 6 drivers will look to be the highest finisher. You don't necessarily have to win. You just have to outperform the other 5 competitors to be able to bring home that cash prize. You'll see them throughout the field. They'll be easy to distinguish with the bright neon green banner up above the windshield. Those drivers tonight include Chris Otto, Jonathan Cogswell, CJ Papa, Chris Hubka, Matt Metler, and Peyton Holland. As mentioned, you don't have to win the race in order to win the Dash for Cash, though we saw back at the first Super Speedway stop at Daytona, Christopher Reese not only won the Dash for Cash, but took the checkered flag as well. At Atlanta, it was Patrick McQuaid who took the Dash for Cash cash prize by finishing in the 5th position. So the thing about it with super speedway racing, you talk about not being in control. A big aspect of that is that there are so many drivers with so many different agendas, and usually there's no two drivers with the same agenda in the field. So it's like highway traffic at over 190 miles per hour. Yeah, you got to be aware of your goal, but you got to be aware of all the goals of everybody else around you, especially if you're in the middle of 3 wide, several rows deep, which I think we're going to see quite a bit of here tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, the only thing is, maybe you got another transport company out there working alongside you, running the same route, and those will be your teammates. But you make a really, really good point. Sometimes you got to get to one side of the interstate. Sometimes you're taking that first exit. Sometimes you're going to the fast lane because you're going to overtake some cars. Sometimes you're going to be sitting in the slow lane because you just want to see what's going to eventuate. Maybe you're listening to the radio as you cruise down the country miles. But yeah, look, this is a very, very difficult one. It is a different skill set, and I can't stress that enough. It is a skill set that is very difficult to acquire. You need to understand air and the way that air moves over the cars impressively. You need to understand the package that you have underneath you and what it's capable of doing, and how to maximize the most of the airflow in and around it. You need to understand temperatures. Engine temperatures, tire temperatures. Tire temperatures are a lot less critical than normal, but it is still relevant. So, that's worthwhile thinking about for a lot of these drivers here tonight.
Talladega, 2.66 miles in length. It is the longest speedway that will be running this season, coming off the heels of the shortest speedway on the schedule, Bristol Motor Speedway, where we saw Kyle Holden go to victory lane for a 3rd time this season. Takes the points lead over from Alan Dobbs, who has 4 trips to victory lane. Those two still in a bare-knuckle fight for that regular season championship. And of course, as well, coming into this race, both tied at 6 stage wins apiece. Pretty simple here tonight as far as the stage lengths. First stage, 25 laps in total. Second stage, another 25 laps in total up to lap 50, and then 50 laps to the conclusion of tonight's 100 lapper. And, again, we talk about drivers and how important it could be for them to pick up a victory here tonight. Those stage points, that one playoff point for a stage win, could be important for a number of drivers as well that are up there running well in the point standings but haven't yet been able to pick up a green and white checkered flag. Looking at some drivers like Christian Roos, Jeffrey Kleinsma, Jonathan Cogswell, Matt Mettler. These are drivers that very easily could put that playoff point to good use if they're able to win or point their way into the playoffs by the time we get to the regular season finale at Daytona.
Yeah, so it just puts a lot more pressure on this one right here, and then think about points and putting points on the board. I mean, this is a great opportunity to lock yourself into the playoffs here today. Can you take advantage of that? Can you stick that bank of points away behind you and come out the other side with the capability of winning a title? That may change for one driver here tonight. So, the big thing is anything's on the table. We got a couple of drivers in the field that are brand new to the series. They made their debuts last week at Bristol, and now it's a very, very different racetrack. I think they handled themselves quite well. Zimmerman for me was a touch aggressive in that race, but at the same time, that's not right, that's not wrong, it's just different, right? So, to him, if he can make it work, but yeah, he's a touch too aggressive, I think. I think he's got to make a slight adjustment, but it's only a slight adjustment. It's a sideways adjustment. It's not big. We got to go out and rethink the way that we drive our car. And a super speedway is a really, really good opportunity to test those drivers as well, their spatial awareness. So, yeah, this will be an interesting one here tonight for a few extra elements as well.
And you talked about points. There's a lot of them that can either be gained or left on the table here tonight, as 29 drivers are going to be taking the green flag in this one. So big opportunity if you're one of those drivers hovering right above or just below where that playoff cut line would be right now. Big opportunity to work your way up into the top 16, into a playoff position, or on the flip side, maybe fall out and have to rebound at a very difficult track that we're going to be at next week in the throwback race at Darlington. We are mere seconds away from qualifying being complete, and Toyota's showing up here in Q. Looks like Dylan McDonald will put his Camry on the pole alongside of Trey Whitehead, and I feel like we go back to Bristol, Watkins Glen. We could even maybe go back to Pocono a few weeks ago. We talk about track position being so important. not maybe as much here at Talladega, because as you said, if you can find your teammates, you can make your way forward. So, yeah, it's great to start up in front. A lot of times, the wrecks don't necessarily happen up there, so it's a little bit of a safety net. But just because you start up at the front doesn't mean you're going to finish up at the front of a super speedway.
But the big thing is we are going to get 100 laps of side-by-side racing. We're going to get some fuel saving in tonight. How often do we actually talk? Well, it's actually funny because normally the only time in a season you actually talk about fuel saving is at the super speedways. But we've had, 3 fuel save races so far this season already?
At least.
So yeah, it's been an odd little season, but that will play a big part, But finding your teammates, finding the guys that you can work with, that's what it's all about right now.
Drivers gritting up here on the front straightaway. We're awaiting our pole sitter Dylan McDonald. There he is, alongside of Trey Whitehead. And they'll be the two that will bring us to the start-finish line, which, noting at Daytona, start-finish line, when Christopher Reese was able to take the checkered flag, was in the middle of the tri-oval. Here at Talladega, there's a few extra 100 feet. Start-finish line down in between the tri-oval and the entrance to turn 1, and that could be a huge difference maker as to who may necessarily have been the winner if we were at Daytona, as opposed to maybe crossing the line in second or third by the time we come around here to the start-finish line at Talladega Superspeedway.
There was a big wreck, remember, just coming to that checkered flag as well. So, yeah, we're having a few issues at the moment as well with Dylan McDonald and his internet. I think he may have just jumped out of the car quickly to see if there's something he can quickly do in about the 10 seconds we've got before we're going to be rolling away. So he's going to try and fix that as best as he possibly can. Back in. It looks a lot more stable for him. There's been a fair few. The difficulty being at the moment, and I know you won't know this, Seth, because you definitely don't get enough racing in on iRacing, but there's been a lot of sim upgrades. How pretty does the sim look? How pretty is the light upgrades? Unfortunately, it does put a lot of strain on PCs, and that means that you got to maintain the PC, you got to keep it moving, keep it upgrading to stay up with the latest graphics qualities. Sometimes that internet connection, it is an internet connection issue. Sometimes it's a hardware issue. It's very difficult to diagnose from sitting on the outside here. I think he's going to go to the back.
Yep, it does appear that is the case. So now we'll have to see, does that mean that the inside line car of Jeffrey Vickery moves up a row? Indeed, that appears that will be the case. So if you're looking at the starting lineup right now, everybody that is starting on the inside lane, they're all going to move up a row from where they were originally slated to start. So Vickery will be the unofficial pole sitter, if you will. Hubka will move from 3rd up to 5th. McQuaid will move from 7th up to, 5th up to 3rd for Hubka and 7th up to 5th for McQuaid on back through that inside line. So Vickery, a little bit of a gimme here. He'll be the one that'll get to lead us to the green flag in this one. But yeah, we'll keep tabs there on Dylan McDonald. Had that great run back at Pocono, finishing on the podium. Was the hard charger in that race as well. And got his first pole of the season here tonight at Talladega. Unfortunately, not going to be able to utilize that good starting track position, at least here in the early going, and hopefully can have the issues sorted out to be up here at the close of tonight's 100 laps.
Rolling down through turn 3, so you can save a little bit of fuel on the outlap. You shut the engine down as often as you possibly can. That will save you a little bit of fuel. Biggest benefit of iRacing, though, and biggest benefit of sim racing just in general. Some will say it's a benefit, some will say it's a detriment, but you know exactly what you can and can't do because you can get out there and test. Don't have to pay for fuel to go testing. Don't have to pay for tires. Don't have to pay for the track availability. You don't have to pay for staff to be around. So people do go out there, they do tests, and it has been shown that shutting that engine off does indeed save you fuel. So
well, this is going to be the last super speedway we're going to run until the regular season finale when we head back to the World Center of Racing at Daytona. Talladega Super Speedway ready to play its part in the Grind Cup Series. We're green.
That's it. Good jump on the inside lane. Jeffrey Vickery is going to get himself a nice little push to get himself rolling, but the momentum's going to come from the top side. And DJ Daniels providing the big push to try and get Trey White. This is a big opportunity for Trey today. He has a great super speedway package here, Seth. We've talked at length through the season about how strong he is, and he will win a race eventually. Today just might be that day.
Look at the Toyota power up there on the top. DJ Daniels there, Peyton Holland. They'll now swap from the top to the bottom. Alan Dobbs followed in line in his Chevrolet. He'll slot into the 4th position, and something to keep an eye on early on here. I don't know if they were just pushing the issue in practice, but a lot of these drivers, double wide, 3 wide, there's a lot of air movement, and these cars looked very unsteady. So how locked will you be able to be to the back bumper of the driver that you're trying to draft, especially if you're up in that second lane? Whitehead going to lead lap number 1 over Daniels and Holland.
Yeah, he's going to immediately jump out of it. So I think that was a plan. I don't think he wants to necessarily punch the hole in the air for fuel, and that'll be the big kicker here tonight. So I might do some walking up and down pit lane, see if I can chat to a few of the drivers just about fuel styles. But yeah, Whitehead's definitely dropping off.
Lap lead bonus point, mission accomplished, and now drop back to a safe spot. To your point, save a little bit of fuel. Now we'll be side by side for the lead here with Vickery on the top side. A couple of Chevrolets as Hubka on his back bumper on the bottom. The Toyotas of DJ Daniels and Peyton Holland. And we're double wide about 5 rows deep. Then we've got a little single file string, then some intermittent double wide. So we're not really seeing the aggressive level of close quarter double wide and 3 wide racing. To your point, I think just about everybody now is in the mentality of let's get ourselves spaced out, let's not tear up this equipment, let's save some fuel here for this first run.
I think that's majorly what it's going to be about. In fact, actually, cars are already moving to the top side, so they've abandoned Hubka in that middle groove. Worthwhile starting to think a little bit deeper in the field in terms of the next couple of weeks and what's coming our way as well. Darlington next week, so we're going to get throwback schemes. We're going to get a huge opportunity to see what the drivers are able to create there. Tire wear, that's going to be a really, really interesting one. Texas Motor Speedway thereafter, so another big wide open oval, a car that tends to be a little bit tough to handle around there. Turn 1 and turn 2 so wide, creates some great racing. Then we head to Martinsville and the flat track. That could be where the tempers start to rise. We had a brilliant race last week at Bristol, and the short track racing package has actually been really, really good. Really impressed thus far. From there on out, Worldwide Technology Raceway. Seth, how exciting would it be if brakes would explode in iRacing? Because I reckon we'd see a few brake explodes at Gateway.
I mean, every single one of those tracks that you named off there, in some way, shape, or form, you make a mistake, it's going to hurt you in a big, big way. So there may be a lot of drivers eyeing this particular race of, you know, I'm going into that quadfecta of tracks in a survive mentality here today. If I could get that victory, lock myself in the playoffs, and make my job so much easier in this next month to come.
Oh yeah. It just changes your decision making. I mean, the decision we talked a little bit about the psychology of Alan Dobbs and Carl Holden and what they're trying to do for the rest of the season, and it's all about picking up bonus points. So winning races gets you the most, but stage victories is what it's all about. Everything else doesn't kind of really matter. They both know that they're locked in, and that's the only things that they're really chasing. So their decision making changes a little bit. But for the rest of the field, it's lock ourselves into the playoffs as best as we possibly can. So 2 drivers have taken the lion's share of victories, but there are so many drivers. I'm really waiting for Jonathan Cogswell to just find himself in a lucky position and win one, because I feel like that's only moments away. Jackson should have won one. Trey Whitehead should have won one. Tom Bourne got lucky. He's already won one. So with that group of drivers, he's the only one that's actually won one of the races thus far. So he's locked in. So DJ Daniels has been quick. This is actually, I hate to say this, but this is the worst that I've actually seen DJ Daniels drive in a good while. And that's a big statement. And it's not that he's driving poorly. I think it's the competition around him has really lifted their game. So he's sort of stayed really stagnant, hasn't maybe taken steps forward, but everyone else has taken huge leaps forward.
Saw Jonathan Cogswell lead a lap. He's the 3rd highest driver in points without a victory. Christian Ruse now leading this race. He is 9th in the point stands, currently in a playoff spot via points. And you see right behind him, Chris Otto in the 88. Note that neon green banner there above the windshield and that green spoiler on the back. That's the indication he's one of our Dash for Cash drivers here tonight. Highest finisher of the 6 participants will get a cash prize. So we'll see those green banners throughout the field during the course of this race. Just a slight amendment on one of your statements there with the Tom Bourne situation. He is credited with the win, but it does not count towards a playoff spot. You mentioned Holden and Dobbs, the other 3 drivers right now that are locked into the playoffs on wins. It also would include DJ Daniels, as well as our Daytona winner Christopher Reese and Brandon Cooper, our winner from Atlanta.
Yeah, and there's so many different drivers. I can't believe Cooper's in, and so many of those other names are out. And that's nothing against Brandon Cooper. I think he's certainly capable of race wins. I'm not sitting here and saying, man, that guy doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. It's just wow, he's in, and all of these guys aren't. And they've probably been a touch more consistent. Cooper's been quick. but consistency, I think, has been his biggest issue, as we're actually going to see Mark Gonzalez try and make his... Think back to Watkins Glen a couple weeks ago, and Gonzalez could be in the playoffs as well.
We talk about alliances at super speedways. A lot of times it's teammates, sometimes it's manufacturers. What about first names? We've got Mark with a K Gilbert being pushed to the front by Mark with a C Gonzalez. So a little similar first name, different spelling alliance here going to the front, a Ford and a Chevrolet.
Would you say that's a human manufacturer
I think
partnership
so.
there?
Yep.
Yeah. The KFC car is quite cool as well, and Mark has really given him a good solid shove, so they're doing a great job up here. The field's actually already split up just a touch to Seth. We've got one car circulating around on their own at the moment, which is Chris Reese. We have Matt Metler is leading the second pack, and he is 23rd. He has Clifford Corriveau, Tanner Marr, Larry Bell, Brian Zinneman, and Johnny Williams all in with him, and they're going to pick themselves up Chris Reese here in the near future. So they'll get themselves a little 7-car pack, I believe. Yeah, they're at 6 now.
Matt Davies in the 32, very slow off of turn 4, now dropping back.
I'm thinking that's planned.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. There didn't appear to be any contact or anything, but he just slowed off that corner, and he's now dropping back outside of the top 10, top 15, as we've got about, looks like an 8-car breakaway here at the front of the field. Gilbert continuing to show the way. We do have an update on Dylan McDonald. Unfortunately, the connection problems continuing to plague the pole sitter. He is currently scored 4 laps down. He has not returned back to the server, and we'll have to find out if this is an official retirement, if he's going to try to get his sword to come in here and log some laps. But that is a tough break there for a guy that was looking like was going to be such a good start to the night, starting on the inside of the front row.
And he'd be frustrated with that, because remember back at Pocono picked up that 3rd spot finish, and he said, I didn't really feel all that great, and finally manages to lock in a podium as well. So, I mean, he's another driver that's had an interesting series. Tell you what, Seth, I'm going to go for a little bit of a wander. I'm going to see what I can rustle up in terms of fuel mileage numbers, and have a conversation to a few of the teams as well.
Sounds good. We're on board here with Chris Hubka in the 5-car. Now, this is a pretty good position if you're Hubka, because you're running just behind this lead group, and you've got Alan Dobbs pushing you, so you've got the opportunity to half throttle, drag the brake a little bit here, save some fuel. You're still in the draft. You've still got somebody on your back bumper to push you forward. So Hubka is in what we would call the prime position right now for a fuel-saving scenario. Looks like he's got quite a number of teammates right there with him. Patrick McQuaid in line there in the 77th. 15 of Jeffrey Kleinsma, also 4th in line here, giving just enough space up ahead to that lead group that you're able to save some fuel, get a nice tow down these straightaways, but not allow them to be able to get away from you. Keep them at least within striking distance. Scott alluded to some of those drivers that are back in some 2nd and 3rd packs. One of them is Matt Metler in the 31 car, one of our Dash for Cash drivers, so not a good start, at least in the early going for him, as he right now is the furthest back of the Dash for Cash drivers. The next furthest back would be CJ Papa, the 13 car, that Adrenaline Rush Coffee Dark Horse Mustang. He's right there with last week's winner Kyle Holden, right in front of Rylan Faccianato. 18th place is where he's currently at. Move a little bit further up is where we would find the driver we were just on board with, Chris Hubka, currently holding down the 9th position. Peyton Holland just ahead of him there in the 19 car. 8th position for him. And then the other 2 Dash for Cash drivers, the 88 of Chris Otta, you see him right there, and looks like we are going to have to make a mental note here on the 27 of Jonathan Cogswell. He does not have the green banner on his number 27 Dark Horse Mustang, but he is the 6th and final of the Dash for Cash drivers. So right now, this side-by-side battle for 4th position would actually be the battle for the Dash for Cash prize as well, albeit only 12 completed laps into this race. Plenty of racing still to go, but nice little battle here in the early going between a couple of drivers looking for that cash prize as Mark Gilbert continues to show the way. Remember, we're racing to the completion of lap 25. We have 2 guaranteed cautions here tonight for the completion of Stage 1 and the completion of Stage 2, and we're going to be very interested to find out here from Scott if indeed we can go those 25 laps on fuel, if he can save enough to make it just on this run alone, or if we will have to see a pit stop at some point during this first stage, because Talladega, if you compare it to Daytona, it's a lot easier pit road to get onto. Mentioned that this track is a lot more spacious. Daytona is usually a little bit more narrow, and that includes pit lane. Pit lane a little bit wider as well. You have a lot more runoff space available off turn 4 to be able to get the thing woed down, get to pit road speed. The only caveat is the other drivers around you. How big a pack are you going to come down pit road with? If you come down with 5-6 drivers, very easy to be able to give each other space to get woed down when you get to that commitment line. But you come down with 20+ drivers, it's like highway traffic on the interstate, and you got to make sure you're not running up each other's gearboxes or overshooting your braking zone when you get to that commitment line.
All right, so I've got some info for you, Seth, and this is going to make these stages actually really, really interesting. Part of the reason that you're seeing a lot of separation from the drivers right now, if you're lifting, you cannot make it. You cannot make it if you're leading the pack. So, issue with one of the drivers blinking to the bottom of the racetrack right now. He's going to try and rejoin as well. So they're going to try and find a slot for him. But
Chris Otto.
It was Chris Otto. Okay, so that's going to be him dropping to the tail end of that little group. Yeah, but they're aware that that's going on. But yeah, the big thing is talking to a couple different teams. If you lead, you won't make the stage. So one of the reasons that we're seeing, and we saw Trey Whitehead come to the front, lead that lap, and then immediately cycle to the back, can't make it. He needs to follow. So that's, you're going to see a lot of that going on. Also, had a quick chat with Patrick McQuaid, and he said, for all the fans that are watching along at home, I had a new nickname for him for the group of fans that are out there. I call him the Muffler Mob. He said he wanted to say a big shout out to the Muffler Mob.
There you go. We see a lot of the Muffler Mob every week in our YouTube chat, so shout out to them. Sure that they are watching with bated interest here tonight. We talk about, Patrick McQuaid and that list of drivers that is consistent every single week. That's why he comes into this race, 12 races in, holding down the 4th position in points, highest driver in the standings behind Noah Jackson without a victory, and maybe here tonight we'll see him in victory lane at Talladega. We're looking at DJ Daniels looking back at that Toyota brigade behind him with Peyton Holland, and you talked about the fact that it seems like the competition getting better and DJ Daniels not quite as dominant as we saw him at the early portion of the season. Remember, it was him and Kyle Holden that were pretty much the class of the field, not only in that entire Daytona race, but also in the qualifying races leading up to that, the shootout, the dual races as well. And now, here at a super speedway, may be the perfect opportunity for him to be able to get his groove back.
Yeah, and coming back to a super speedway, he's always done well on the super speedways as well. So I'm not surprised. This will be the drivers and the group of drivers that have now hit their fuel number, and they're starting to make their shuffle forward as well on that outside lane. So the critical thing is you don't just have to get to lap 25 here. The end of lap 25 is when the stage caution will be thrown. That next time past the pit lane, it's not open. You gotta get to the end of 26, but once we get to the end of 25, you can jump on the clutch, your fuel burn's gonna drop through the floor, so you can make it. So you don't need a huge deal of fuel. If you can make 26 laps on fuel, you are good to go.
Brandon Cooper is running 5th in line there, that black and orange 54. It's been a couple of weeks since we've seen him in the field. Our winner from the last Dash for Cash race that we had at the legacy version of Atlanta. Subsequently missing those last couple of weeks. He's 19th in points, but he is still eligible for the playoffs with his victory. And looking up here at Mark Gilbert, you mentioned if you're leading this race, there's no way you can make it on fuel. So is the strategy here just log as many laps out in front as possible and hope that a caution comes out here before you have to hit pit road so you can maintain this track position?
No, the biggest thing is you will lose this position. You will stay on the lead lap, but then the field's going to run you down. So if you flip the stage, you got to come at the end of 22, 23. So we're only a couple laps away from kicking into that margin. And the problem is, in that time, you're going to lose so much time. You may just stay on the lead lap if you're lucky. But I'm taking gas and go to get that done. It's not a full stop, so it's going to be about a 10-second static time for gas and go. You got to get in, got to get out aggressively. If you make a mistake on the pit load, you are going a lap down.
Look at the sequence we had from turn 4 over to turn 1. You had Mark Gilbert kind of backing out, getting side drafted by Mark Gilbert, who went around the outside. Jeffrey Vickery got a big run. He crossed to the inside, and now we're all wadded up here with Ryan Catalano sliding into the second position in front of Vickery. Matt Davies looks around and says, where'd all my help go, as he's trapped on that outside line. CJ Papa now up here in the conversation as well in that 13. All of a sudden, some new faces up here, as you said, have hit their fuel number, so now they're charging to the front. Their thought process is those valuable stage points.
Yeah, just watching as well, there's been a breakup in that back pack. You remember how I said we had a pack that was sort of together? Well, they're very split now. I'm just going to go back and have a little bit of a look for what happened to split that pack, because Tenet Mars ended up behind Johnny Williams, and he was ahead of him. Clifford Corriveau was connected with him at one point as well. I'm just wondering whether or not there was no pushing going on. In fact, Johnny Williams was actually able to round that pack up without help and drive away from them. There's a car in the fence, too. Jeff Kleinsma, I think, is in the fence.
Kleinsma back in the 19th position, and oh yeah, there's definitely damage on that right front quarter panel. Not sure if he just got up there, rode up a little too high on the track, if contact was made, but
Seth, we got a pack that's 6 seconds ahead of our lead. They're about to go a lap down. They're trying desperately to save on fuel.
Tanner Marr, Larry Bell, Brian Zimmerman in this group. Our Daytona winner, Chris Reese.
Oh, Fortune's out.
Yes, indeed it is. We've got trouble as Mark Gilbert and Matt Davies have gotten together. I believe that is over in 3 and 4.
I believe DJ Daniels was also involved.
That would have been up inside of the top 10. Gilbert spent a good portion of this race out in front, faded back a little bit. Davies, the last time we saw him was around the 7th position. DJ Daniels in the latter half of the top 10. Some pretty extensive damage on the right front of that KFC Ford as we'll go back and take a look at what brought out this first caution, and we're pretty close to the end of this stage. I don't know if they'll call this the stage end or not.
Just waiting for some updates. I don't think they are going to call it the end of the stage.
Here's a look at it.
The problem is
17 looks like he may have tried to clear himself up, and the 32 is definitely there to his right rear quarter panel. Didn't look like he got a bad bump that shot him up there. We'll try and get another camera angle. He had the 19 of Peyton Holland behind him, but I don't think Peyton was anywhere close to his back bumper.
Is he trying to cover, or they just get hooked together? I think they just get sucked together. Because you got to remember that air rushing down the side of the car sort of creates a pocket of air between the two of them. They're just very easy to get the cars sucking together at that point in time, just the way air pressure works. So,
and I think I just heard a sigh of relief out there on the racetrack. Collectively, that half dozen drivers you were talking about that were just ahead of the race leaders, this is now going to keep them on the lead lap. The caution that they definitely needed.
In fact, that group had to keep going quite aggressively to try and make it. So the thing is, I don't think this is actually going to be the stage caution either, as we're getting another look how the field scattered to get around them. You saw how quick the caution lights came on that one too. I believe caution will be thrown for stage at the end of the stage, but I think right now we may get one lap of green flag racing, and there's going to be a bunch of guys who are going to flip the stage.
It's like 15 drivers, 14 drivers staying out here. Everybody else, to your point, coming down pit road, flip the stage. That'll give them the opportunity when the stage yellow comes out and everybody up here at the front comes to pit road. They will cycle up towards the front of the field. And you think about it here, some of those drivers that came down, Kyle Holden, Tom Bourne, Jeffrey Vickery, Chris Otto, stage points isn't out of the question for them still in this one. They could easily pick up 3, 4, 5 spots, nab some stage points at the conclusion, plus gain the track position when the stage is flipped.
Yeah. So it's smart. Again, you haven't got track position. We talk about it each and every week. You don't have any track position. You got to find a way to get you some. Flipping the stage is one of the best ways, particularly at tracks like Bristol. We've seen that now become a big thing, which is I'm really really enjoying that because that's such a rare thing to see stages and stuff being flipped in racing on iRacing. So it's a unique little thing that this league is certainly giving us the benefit of.
Both drivers involved in that incident, Mark Gilbert and Matt Davies, have taken on their faster pair, so they will have to run the remaining 3/4 of this race without that mulligan to fall back on. Dalton McKenney, who's had a tremendous season, 8th in the point standings, he's also on pit road extended stay for his Chevrolet. We'll see if they get him back out there before the field comes around. If he's still on pit road, by the time they hit the tri-oval here, he will more than likely fall a lap down, which if he can get out still -1, we know we got a guaranteed caution coming out, so he would be able to get the free pass.
He is rolling, and he did beat the pace car out. And I believe he was involved. Remember how we said there was contact with the 15 of Jeff Kleinsma? I believe he was one of the cars that was involved with that.
That would make sense. You see some pretty extensive right front damage on that machine as well. And we talk about aerodynamics and how important it is to have your race car, particularly the front end of your race car, intact for good straight line speed. Nowhere is it more important than a super speedway. And that's going to be, unless they can get that thing almost close back to what it looked like at the start of this race, that is something that Dalton McKenney will be struggling with for the remainder of this race. You see Gonzalez in the 8, running down in the apron. Now, he spent a good portion of this run in the 2nd position, pushing Mark Gilbert out in front. Is there any concern for any of these drivers here of not being able to make it to the conclusion of the stage?
No, that caution absolutely ticks that fuel box now. Provided they weren't leading every single lap, and none of these drivers that stayed out were. A lot of them were actually out here saving fuel for the bulk of half of that first run. So pretty confident for these guys that they should be in a good position.
So it will be a 1-lap shootout to decide the winner of this stage. Ryan Catalano is going to be the one to get us back under green with CJ Papa to his outside. Then Mark Gonzalez, Peyton Holland, DJ Daniels going to be the top 5. Looks like Christian Ruse, Chris Hubka, Alan Dobbs, Rylan Facinato, and Trey Whitehead going to be the top 10 when we go back green. Again, only 1 lap. We race it back to the start-finish line. Caution will fly for the completion of the stage. Stage points up for grabs for our top 10 finishers and a valuable playoff point to the stage winner. How badly do they want it? We're going to find out here as they make their way through the tri-oval, head for that restart zone, and get ready to get back up through the gears for our first restart of the night.
Here we go. Great opportunity for Ryan Catalano to get a stage victory. CJ Papa, a big opportunity as well. Inside line, got a huge jump though here, Seth, as we get back to green.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if a caution comes out between now and when they get to the start-finish line, stage would end and field is frozen at the time of caution.
Yeah, 100% correct, so.
Big push on the bottom there. Mark Gonzalez right up to the back bumper of Ryan Catalano. Couldn't take it anywhere, though, as Catalano had the bottom covered. Look at the top. CJ Papa, Ryan Holland trying to make something happen. Gonzalez moves up. Catalano moves up to block. You think this was the last lap of the race. No, it's just the last lap of stage number 1. Contact made. 92 loose. We're 3 wide. Through 3 and 4. Gonzalez going to try and clear on the top.
Yeah, got clear. Now he's going for the block, but CJ Papa's got the momentum. He's got help. Side drafting coming. Did he get the caution flies?
Caution out, and
Big
Papa was ahead. CJ Papa going to pick up the stage victory as carnage behind. Patrick McQuaid involved. Brian Zimmerman was in it. I believe Chris Otto, one of our Dash for Cash drivers, might have been collected up. Jonathan Cogswell on pit road along with Alan Dobbs. I don't know if were these drivers that came to pit road, kind of threw up their hands, said, we're not getting stage points, let's pit coming to this stage completion, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Again, opportunity to flip the stage, but there's probably a big chunk of the field they're going to pit here. So
88 Chris Otto looks relatively clean, though I believe he was in the middle of that. Damage on the right front of the 28, that Davey Allison throwback, Brian Zimmerman, and we saw the damage on the left rear quarter panel of Patrick McQuaid, as we'll check back and see what exactly happened, coming to the conclusion of this stage and giving the stage victory to the 13 of CJ Papa.
good for him, man. Really good to see for CJ Papa. So proud that he's getting a stage win right here.
Take a look around the 77 of McQuaid as we are, 3 wide, and hard to tell from that angle if Cooper comes down on Kleinsma, but then nowhere for Brian Zimmerman to be able to go. Tom Bourne just skates by. Had some other drivers looked like might have gotten bits and pieces up on the top side there. Let's look at the 15 of Jeffrey Kleinsma, the 54 of Brandon Cooper. Look around that area, see if there were any other innocent victims that got some bits and pieces of this.
And Brandon Cooper around. 21 machine goes around as well. Jeff Vickery gets a piece of it, so.
Let's focus now on the 15 of Jeffrey Kleinsma.
I think Kleinsma's already burned his fast repair too, so.
Yeah, he tried shooting up the middle. I don't know if Cooper knew they were 3 wide, and there's some of the others involved. Alan Dobbs was actually one of them in the 35. He might have actually towed back to pit lane. That might have been why we saw him there. And Dalton McKenney in the 46 was also collected up. That car might be broken. It looked like that left rear tire wasn't even turning, and I believe Alan Dobbs is out of this race.
I believe he's still in. No, he is done. You're right. Sorry, my apologies.
We've also got the 83 of Clifford Corveau out of the race. I didn't see him involved in the incident. 3
And Johnny
of Johnny
Williams is done as well.
I'm going to check real quick here on the 83 of Corveau. He might have just come to pit lane and gone to the garage. Yeah, that's exactly what happened there with him. So 4 drivers at this point in time out of the race. And take a look at this. Dobbs out of the race, and look who's leading. Kyle Holden. Those two have been back and forth, not only in victory lane, but for that overall points lead. And now with the DNF scored for the 35, opportunity for Kyle Holden to be able to extend that points lead for the regular season championship. Little confused as to the retiring of Alan Dobbs, because as I'm checking, he had not yet used a fast repair.
Yeah, I'm confused about that. Whether or not he didn't know that he had a fast repair, or whether or not something else has come up and he's had to go handle that. I can confirm he's left Discord for the night as well, so I believe he is done for the day.
We already documented Mark Gilbert, Matt Davies, who were involved in the first caution, have used their fast repairs. Add another couple drivers now that have used their mulligans, Patrick McQuaid and Brian Zimmerman. So the majority of the field still do have their mulligan intact as we gear up now in preparation for the second stage of the evening, running to the completion of lap 50, working our second caution of the night, and technically our second caution for cause, as we did have an incident take place before the caution flew at the completion of stage number 1.
This will be an interesting one as well, because we've got a little bit more in terms of the tank as well at the moment, because we've got these few laps on pacing. So in theory, we shouldn't need to save, but it'll be a splash and save. It won't be much.
So Kyle Holden will be the control car, chooses the inside line. Our Stage 1 winner, CJ Papa, his first stage win of the season, will start second. Tanner Marr, who was actually part of that group that were just in danger of going a lap down prior to the first caution waving, is going to line up in third with Trey Whitehead in fourth. Larry Bell, Tom Bourne, Rylan Facinato, Chris Otto, Matt Metler, and Christian Ruse going to be the top 10 as we get ready to go back green. 25 drivers still running, 24 of them on the lead lap. Jeffrey Kleinsma, the only driver off the lead lap, is green flag in the air. We're back underway, and you may have noticed a number of drivers back there. The outside line, the inside line did not have an even number of cars. That's because a number of drivers, Scott, came down pit road at the 1 to green, so by virtue of having to start tail end of the longest line, they all lined up on the inside line, which was the longest line when they doubled up.
Yeah, so Jeff Vickery just said as well, he just got pushed through the pit lane. So he's got himself a black flag that's saying basically he needs to come back down pit lane. But he had to, remember he was avoiding the wreck. And yeah, that'll be an interesting one.
So Vickery will have to serve that pass through. Should stay on the lead lap, but he will be all by his lonesome. And you definitely do not turn nearly as quick laps when you're all by yourself than when you're in a thundering herd like we have here. Up at the front, looking back from the race leader Kyle Holden to Tanner Marr in the 4. CJ Pop up there on the top side with Chris Otto. Those two working together right now, but notice them both sporting those neon green banners and spoilers. Those two, when it comes down to the end of this race, they're going to be frenemies because they know there's a cash prize on the line as well. It's the highest finisher of the Dash for Cash drivers.
Yeah. In terms of those cars eliminated as well thus far, just taking a quick look. So Kleinsma was in a pit lane, Johnny Williams, Alan Dobbs, and Clifford Corvo. Luckily, none of those drivers are actually a part of the Dash for Cash here tonight. Whoa!
Big save for Tanner Marr off of turn 4. Tom Bourne moved up to the middle line to give him space, is able to tuck back in line there, but that could have very easily been the big one here at Talladega.
Yeah, it was looking like it, particularly being right at the front too. So I think the pace has come up now. So this says to me, Seth, that saving, it might be a tiny little bit. We don't necessarily need to do it.
Also just noticed potential unscheduled pit stop for Jonathan Cogswell in the 27. He just pitted a lap ago and has returned to the track 1 lap down. So he is one of our 6 Dash for Cash drivers with an issue here in the early going. The other 5, throw a blanket over them. They are spread from 2nd back to, I believe that is 7th position, the other 5 drivers.
Have a look at them. They're all getting aggressive at this point in time. That everyone's fighting for a lot of track position. So pace has come up. Fuel savings off the table. I do wonder whether or not everyone's looking at this and just going, yeah, it's time to press on a little bit. The other critical factor as well is we've got an issue in the back half of the race as well. Fuel mileage, if it is 25 laps, we're going to go back to a touch of fuel saving. Just for that stage, because we're going to be right on the bubble in terms of that one. So it's going to be quite tight. The saving will need to be 1 to 2 laps. We get any caution that'll take the saving off the line, unless, of course, we're a couple laps shy of that 25 lap marker. That's where it'll quite kick in. So right now, it's, again, give yourself a fast repair to work with in that final stage. But if there's stage points on the line, go grab them. You'd be silly not to.
Something that I noticed here, and granted, 2 entirely different super speedways, Daytona and Talladega, but remember, Chris Reese was a part of that group of drivers that were in danger of going a lap down prior to the first yellow flying. He lost touch, and it looked like maybe on purpose with this lead group. He has fallen back to the second group once again. This is similar to what he did back at Daytona. We didn't mention his name until we got into about 20 laps to go. He's adhering to the same strategy here this weekend at Talladega. We'll see if it pans out. The last time he did this, Daytona, he was the one that picked up the checkered flag.
So there is a little bit of an issue, Seth, and that issue is if you get it out to about 5 or 6 tenths of a second away from the draft, you lose it. And the reason for that is you've got to have, if you get out that far and you're building momentum, you should be okay. But if you're out that far, you get out to 3 tenths and you're not starting to really rebuild that momentum, that's where you get in trouble. And I just went back and had a look at the lap where Chris Reese lost the pack. He did get out to that marker where it was just sort of that 5, 6 tenths, that 7 or 8 car lengths back, and he was losing a little bit of momentum because he was trying to fuel save. Staying with the pack is so much more important. Yeah, I just saw it. He dipped the throttle pressure just a little bit at a critical moment in trying to regather it, and that's why he dropped out. So I don't think that one was intentional, but you're right, he is now leading that second pack.
Close call there off of turn 2 as Peyton Holland got sideways. Little late bump off the corner from Dalton McKenney, who we can actually add his name to the list of drivers that have taken on a fast repair as well. That right front damage now gone. So his mulligan is in arrears as we're looking at this top line, and the 31 of Matt Metler right there. Add him to a list of drivers that could maybe find victory lane here tonight as he comes into this race 11th in overall points, currently sits in a playoff position through points, and would love to lock himself in with a checkered flag.
More importantly, he'd love to win himself some cash with the Dash for Cash banner, and he's doing the right moves as well. He supported Kyle Holden, got him up to the pointy end of the things, and then just took the left-hand turn down underneath him. Now he's going to go to the point.
Covered the bottom there on Chris Otto, one of those other Dash for Cash drivers that he's fighting against here tonight. Christian Ruse on that inside line there as well in the 14. Another of the drivers that's currently up in a playoff spot through points. And think about it too. You mentioned about those tracks we've got coming up here. Darlington, Texas, Martinsville. At the same time though, if you're a driver that's up there currently in a good points paying position and maybe even have a little bit of a cushion back to what the 16th position would be on the playoff grid, does that give you just a little bit extra incentive to be aggressive here tonight in the case of, yeah, there's a chance that I may end up bringing home the steering wheel instead of the trophy, but with an opportunity to win my way into the playoffs with how consistent a season I've had so far, maybe worth taking a little bit more of a risk here tonight.
It depends. If you're right on the bubble, then probably not looking to take too much of a risk. We're thinking we're going to go back to the World Center of Racing before we're going to cross over into the playoffs as well. So there is a fair bit of racing to go, but the big thing is that for the next few rounds, Darlington, Martinsville, Gateway, and Sonoma, that's 4 tracks where it's tough and difficult to overtake out of the next 6. So realistically, tonight's actually a really, really strong ability to put your some points on the board. If you can do that tonight, big win, means that your next few weeks are quite a lot stressful. The next month and a half.
Contact!
Oh boy!
Hupka into Holden. Holden's going to stay on the apron. We are 4 wide through 3 and 4, and somehow I think we're going to get through that with everyone still pointed in the right direction.
Yeah. And Chris Hupka just said, I was trying to follow DJ Daniels, and I wasn't clear, and is immediately on the apologies. So again, sportsmanship wins. That's how great a story is that for this season? You know, I cannot tell you any other league I have ever been a part of that takes a gentleman's agreement to let people back on the lead lap.
Yeah, that was a first. I've never seen that before.
I've never seen that ever before. But that just states as well that you know, people make mistakes in this league. The biggest thing is that all originated from a driver wanting to pit but missed the pit window, and the whole field went, well, he would have let everyone that's trapped off the lead lap back onto the lead lap, so how about we all make sure that that actually happens as it was intended to? And that's how that one went about. But it's the same sort of thing. The biggest thing I'm seeing about everything that goes on out here is that everyone's allowed to make mistakes. The guys that are around them are then like, hey, yeah, man, you just made a mistake. You tried to race me hard. You missed it by a foot. Let's get back to racing. So that's the biggest thing, is that people are allowed to make mistakes in this series, and they're not kicked for them. They're said, hey, sweet, so long as you apologize, so long as you get on with it, and you don't do it again, no problem. So that's the biggest thing.
Traffic up ahead here for the leaders. That's Jonathan Cogswell, one of our Dash for Cash drivers, already a lap down. This will put him a second lap down as he'll yield to the top, give the bottom to the race leaders and that middle line as well, right up against the wall. Good courtesy, Super Speedway Racing there out of the 27, who was one of 2 drivers a lap down, is currently not in the free pass position when we will eventually get that guaranteed caution in the next 11 laps. It was interesting because I know that right now we're in the 13th race. There's 30 regular season races, so we're not quite halfway through the season. But if we're looking around that bubble line for the playoffs, there's going to be some movement around there regardless of who goes to victory lane here tonight. 2 drivers that come into this race in the 15th and 16th seed right now would be Chris Roberge and Sean Lauder. They're not in the field here tonight. Just behind them in points are Peyton Holland and Mark Gonzalez, and both of them are running up here in this lead group. So we could end up seeing a couple of drivers fall out, a couple of drivers move into playoff positions when we get to Darlington next week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anything can and will happen. So particularly, you know, we're not even getting towards crunch time for playoff positions as well. There is still quite a lot of room to go before we actually get to a critical phase of the season. So, yeah, look, get your head down. You know, for the guys that are there and thereabouts, get your head down, keep working hard. You never know what may pay off, and we're seeing mistakes. We're seeing cars that should be finishing very, very strong have average days at different points in the season. So it's not as simple as you're there, you're in it, you're going to win it. You know, it's lock yourself in, do the right things. And there's some blocking going on for the race lead as well. DJ Daniels tried to move to the high line, and Mettler went with him.
Matt Mettler, he saw CJ Papa get his first stage victory of the season just moments ago, and he's looking for his first stage win as well. A valuable playoff point in that very chromish light blue number 31 machine. Toyota behind him of DJ Daniels, Ford of CJ Papa on that inside line. So all 3 of the manufacturers well represented up here at the front of the field. About 8 laps away, a little less than 8 laps away before we'll have the caution coming out here for the second stage. To your point, should be able to make it to that conclusion on what we've got in the tank, and we saw how aggressive they were willing to race for that first stage victory. Got to expect we're going to see that here at the close of stage 2, and most of these drivers up here have their faster pairs, so that might also play into how aggressive we're going to be, and maybe if we end up having a torn up race car, we use the faster pair and we stick it out for the remaining 50 laps.
Yeah, anything sort of, you know, big thing is that they need to keep putting points on the board. Right, we're going to have 2 cars drop a lap here. One of them is already off the lead lap. That'll be Jeff Kleinsman, but Patrick McQuaid, unfortunately, the Muffle Man, is going to drop off the lead lap.
And Patrick McQuaid does have a brand new race car after being caught up in that incident coming to the conclusion of the...
Well, you say that.
Oh, yeah, I actually just noticed there's some front-end damage on that car again.
Yeah. So whether or not that's just a bad shot or there was a checkup ahead of him at one point, that might explain why he's actually off the back end of the lead pack if there was a checkup.
Yeah, it's a tough break there for him. He's going to pull right down in front of Rylan Faccianato, and that's going to cause a wreck. 25 is going to go around off the nose of the 32. Caution is going to wave for the second time here tonight. Actually make that third time for cause. And now we're going to have the same similar scenario that we had at the close of stage 1, where drivers are going to have to weigh out stage points for track position. Maybe some drivers flip the stage here going into stage 3, or do you think everybody comes down pit road here knowing that we've got 50 laps coming up in the third and final stage?
I think this is about to just go off. So I'm coming down pit lane, and if I wanted tires at any stage during the race, I'm probably taking them on this one. And the reason for that is, again, flipping the stage. I'm thinking big picture. If I'm coming down for more fuel, and there was a checkup just ahead, and just a couple guys didn't read it properly, unfortunately, with that one is about all that you can really say. The thing is, I'm coming, again, if I'm out of position, I'm out of sequence, I'm not in for stage points right now, I'm coming down. Fresh tires at it. I'm not taking them under the next caution. It also really shortens up my splash and dash. So I'm definitely pitting here, and then I'm definitely pitting again at the end of the stage. And the reason for that is we've already talked about how critical that fuel window is. We're not close enough to that fuel window to make it right here. So I think McQuaid had to dive in here. They just didn't read the check. What was going on?
He saw the gap down there, and the 25 and the 32, they were still hooked up, so they were producing more speed, and by the time Ryland gets there, there's probably about, what, a 5 to 10 mile per hour difference between what he's carrying through the corner to what Patrick McQuaid's carrying. Is that a little bit of a desperation move there from Patrick McQuaid to try and remain that first car 1 lap down? Driver that he would be battling was already getting put 2 laps down.
Yeah, no, that's not desperation from Patrick McQuaid. What he saw was that Jeff Kleinsma was slowing down to try and... I think Kleinsma had the idea that he was going to try and slot in, and McQuaid wanted to be a little bit closer to the front, so Kleinsma left a hole. There was a hole for him to slot in. It was probably on the drivers that were in and behind him to read that and check up. So I'm going to put that probably... I'm putting it probably on the 32, not the 25 there.
Jeffrey Kleinsma, by virtue of McQuaid being involved in that incident, is going to be the lucky dog, so he will get one of his 2 laps back. That'll put him on the same lap with Patrick McQuaid, and those two will battle for the free pass to get back on the lead lap when the caution comes out at the conclusion of stage number 2. Had a 1-lap shootout to conclude stage number 1. Didn't quite make it all the way back before an incident in the tri-oval. We'll see how many laps we're going to have in hand here to finish out the second stage before preparing for the third and final stage here this evening. Well, if you guys are done with tonight's race and you still want some more Talladega action, we've got some for you. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we kick off the 65th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series at the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway. Same drivers, same racetracks, but brand new mod as we move from the Aero 88 cars to the Xfinity cars from 2020. So a little period of adjustment for those drivers. We saw how that kind of played into driver mentality, the debuting season of the Aero 88 machines. So be sure to join us tomorrow night, see who gets the first checkered flag of the brand new season at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Flatout Racing Network.
Yeah, here we go. We're about to get ourselves settled in. Go too wide here. And the thing is, when we restart this one, we're going to have 4 laps to run. So I reckon this is going to get real aggressive here.
We did have 9 drivers come down pit road here under this yellow, potentially with the thought process of flipping the stage, maybe even come down pit road under the stage caution and take on a little less fuel, gain track position that way. Chris Otto, Matt Davies, Tanner Marr, Larry Bell, Chris Reese amongst those that came down pit road as lights out on the pace car, and Matt Metler is going to be the one that will get us back under the green. He's going to choose the top side here, interestingly. Going to line up with a fellow Chevrolet in Chris Hubka.
I think that was actually a bad decision because that actually lets teammates Carl Holden and DJ Daniels line up together. That's why I don't approve of this one. So he needs to get a great jump and then drop down in front of them to sort of shuffle that. Because look at them, they've got Trey Whitehead in behind them as well. So you got 3 of the DDRT cars lined up nose to tail. They're a very strong chance of taking a stage win here.
Going to need some communication now. In NASCAR, the driver puts the hand out the window and kind of gives the indication of I'm going, give me a push. More than likely, what, verbal communication here from the 31 to the 5 saying I'm going now, and to be able to allow Hubka to know exactly when to mash the throttle and stay glued to his bumper?
Well, the thing is, not necessarily. So, it is... I don't know that he's necessarily going to be able to communicate. It's literally just with the gas pedal and the engine. That's it. There is no other way really for him to communicate to Hubka that he's getting back to the power. So Hubka's going to need a great restart here. If he can, they're in a strong spot.
Now, I do have a theory. He isn't a Chevrolet. He's normally been running in a Toyota. He is out of the DJ Daniel Racing team. So maybe time this restart correctly, clear the 96, pull down to the inside line, and get the teammates lined up 1, 2, 3, 4, heading through 1 and 2.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. I was just looking actually at that and thinking the same thing. So that's actually exactly what the decision making was about. Good reset. Good pickup.
See how it pans out for them here. Metler still looking for his first stage win of the season. DJ Daniels, he's looking for his 5th. Kyle Holden would be looking for his series-leading 7th, and Chris Hubka looking for his 1st as well. That is the first 2 rows as we get ready to go back green. 4 laps left to run here in stage number 2.
Good restart, got clear, and he needs to shut that down early. There it is, perfect.
Line them up 1, 2, 3, 4 on that inside line. Hubka and Mark Gonzalez, along with Dalton McKinney. Some Chevrolets going to be up on that top side, trying to make something happen here in the closing stages. Daniel's looking like he's all right, I let you in. Doesn't mean I'm going to let you win this stage. Peaked high, now he's going to go low. Hubka gets to his right rear.
And have a look at Mark Gonzalez. There's a huge deal of momentum for Chris Hubka, and Gonzalez decides to go with him as well. And all that squabbling about, instead of pushing each other down the back straightaway, that's actually going to end up costing the DDRT team.
Mark Gonzalez in that 8, looking for his second stage victory on the season as he's going to shove Chris Hubka literally through the tri-oval. Got him loose, and Hubka's going to go around off the nose of the 8. Big wreck here across the start-finish line.
And that was all from Hubka just hesitating on the lanes. He wasn't 100% certain which lane he wanted to block and where he wanted to cover, but
caution gonna wave for the 4th time here tonight. You can see the sparks out from underneath that machine. That's undoubtedly from that right front splitter dragging on the banking of the apron. It's hard to tell just how many other drivers might have gotten collected up in that one. A lot of scattering, so there may not be nearly as many drivers as we might think. But that was right up at the front of the field, and Hubka was in trouble through the tri-oval. We saw Mark Gonzalez give it a nice tight draft, got him a little squirrely there as he was right up on that right rear quarter panel. And then to your point, maybe even just that little wiggle slightly scrubbed off enough speed, enough momentum that when he came up to cover Gonzalez, it was too late.
You're right, it was a shot. So I called it on Chris being a little bit uncertain of where he wanted to cover, and there was a shot there that got him loose.
Peyton Holland, I saw, got a piece of it. You saw the 17 of Mark Gilbert. Not sure how much damage he sustained out of that one.
Just taking a quick look. Matt Metler from DJ Daniels, Dalton McKinney, Carl Holden, Trey Whitehead, Mark Gilbert, Kristen Roos, Tom Bourne, Ryan Catalano, and Brandon Cooper, your drivers getting points for the stage.
So Metler indeed does get the stage victory there. Oh, I believe that maybe getting a piece of this as well was our stage 1 winner, CJ Papa.
Good opportunity, though, for a bunch of different drivers to earn themselves bank of stage points and stage wins as well. A couple drivers that haven't necessarily been there before.
Is on board with the 17 of Mark Gilbert. He was inside for a moment, the 5 of Hubka. But it doesn't look like he left with really any visible damage, and very similar when Peyton Holland spun down to the inside line, he had kind of almost the same type of contact with CJ Papa in the 13, so CJ might have actually gotten away with little to no damage as well.
Update on Patrick McQuaid. He gets the lucky dog under this caution. So he will move back to the lead lap.
That was a big hit for Peyton Holland. I believe that right front may have come up off the ground after the contact between himself and Chris Hubka. Let's watch this and see if that car might catch a little bit of air right here. Yep, up on 3 wheels. And that hurt the right front suspension too.
Yeah. Big shot, unfortunately, that right front of that car. That's a fair old whack of damage. I hope he's still got himself a fast repair left over.
Believe he does.
That will probably be that one burned.
So 2 drivers here tonight getting their first stage victories of the season. CJ Papa in stage 1, Matt Metler here in stage 2. And Chris Reese, who was one of those drivers that came to pit road the caution prior, going to use this opportunity to flip the stage. And again, like we said, this is similar to the type of strategy that he played out back at Daytona. It paid off, getting him the first checkered flag of the season. We'll see if he's able to go 2 for 2 here in the super speedways so far in 2025.
The problem, so this caution is actually really trickily timed for the bulk of the field. They actually wanted the stage caution to come out because the stage caution effectively locked in that everyone was on the same fuel strategy. This caution coming out and ending the stage a couple laps early now puts the whole field back into the exact same situation we're in under the first stage, whereby you're not quite good on fuel and you will have some work to do. There will be a couple of cars here that will come back down for a splash, and again, just puts them in a better fuel position. I'm keeping an eye on Christian Ruse as well. He's trying to manually get that car repaired and keep it in the race. It looks good enough. He may be able to stay in the draft train, so he's actually okay. Was just watching Patrick McQuaid's come down and taken a lot of damage off the front end of his car after taking the locking dog, and the other one was Peyton Holland.
Interesting call on the 5 of Chris Hubka. I checked to see, and he did have a faster pair available, but he is on pit road getting manual repair done, and that currently has him 2 laps down. Now, there's every possibility that he can get back out there. We could have enough yellows here in the second half of this race for him to get back in the lead lap and still be able to utilize that faster pair, but kind of interesting that he's taking at least a 2-lap penalty here for manual repairs to preserve that faster pair here, instead of taking it and remaining on the lead lap. He's had a strong car here tonight, been up in the top 10 for pretty much the majority of the evening.
A couple drivers from a really strong night as well. Remember, Jeffrey Vickery went for that wild ride through the infield on the front stretch, but he's also been up at the point, the Mary Lou machine.
Started this race unofficially, if you will, from the pole position after the early issues from the pole sitter Dylan McDonald. Trey Whitehead started on the outside of the front row, and he's going to be rolling off here on this restart from the 6th position. And a few drivers that, back towards the close of stage 1, we were talking about in trouble of maybe falling off the lead lap, making their second starts on the season. Tanner Marr in the 4, Larry Bell in the 43. They're up here in the latter half of the top 10 as we get ready to go back green. Third and final stage ready to be run, and our Daytona winner Chris Reese going to bring us down here to the green flag. 25 drivers still scored in this race, 22 of them on the lead lap, and we are back racing here at Dega.
So, good launch from the front. No one set themselves in. Notice how the pace again immediately, guys aren't surging up to the rear bumper of the guy ahead.
So does this become a case now where drivers are like, I don't want to lead, you lead. No, you lead.
Pretty
or
much.
do we end up seeing kind of similar to what we saw back in stage 1 where Mark Gilbert and Mark Gonzalez, they were like, you know what, we're going to be using up maybe a little bit more fuel, but let's establish first and second, at least for a majority of this run, and then start saving a little bit of fuel towards the tail end, try and see if we can come to pit road with some of the other drivers. Looks like maybe the 21 of Jeffrey Vickery maybe taking on the same strategy that Gilbert did back in the first stage.
Yeah, so there's a couple things in that, and the big thing is, if it's going to put you in a great track position, but you need to save late, you're left with really bad options, and you may run out of fuel. If you get all your fuel saving done early, you'll have no track position. Should a caution come out, you'll have no track position, and it won't really matter. So the risk is that by not grabbing track position early, you are at risk of a timely caution effectively putting you in a worse position than you already were. But by not saving the fuel, should we go green, that is where you will be in trouble.
So a couple of Toyotas up in that third lane. They didn't get shuffled out there by accident. They went up there on purpose to drift to the back of this pack. Trey Whitehead in the 23, Brandon Cooper in the 54. So to your point, we're already starting to see those fuel strategy games coming into play.
Again, no one's on each other. Look at the lack of pushing that's going on right now. Reminds me more of an Xfinity race than a Cup Series race.
Let's ride on board with our Daytona winner, and let's see if we can listen to the throttle input.
So he actually surged up to about 8,200 RPM, and then the RPM started to die on a straight. That says fuel saving.
You heard as he entered into the corner, you could hear him breathing the throttle. And that's going to keep these drivers gridlocked side by side as well, with everybody fuel saving, nobody trying to outrun the other.
Well, let's take a good look at lap times here, Seth, because lap times tell us a big story. Fastest lap times we've seen today down in the 49 seconds. When you get a big old run, you can get it as low as a 49.1 is our fastest lap time today. But that's a car that's getting pushed and in a draft all at the same time. Drivers that have only run in the pack all night long is 49.9s to very low 50s. Right now, our last time by, race leader, 51.6. Chris Reese, also up at the front, 51.6. DJ Daniels, 51.6.
A lot of drivers mid-pack running nearly 2 seconds slower than the fastest laps they put down here this evening. Comes a run on the top. That's Tanner Marr leading that. A couple of Chevrolets behind him with Dalton McKinney and Rylan Facinato. And now Marr's going to go up to the third lane. He's going to drop back. Tom Bourne there, Jeffrey Kleinsma, Mark Gonzalez. The Chevrolet bow ties all working together. And, of course, as well, is now too early to start communicating amongst your teammates, your fellow manufacturer alliances of maybe a potential target lap to make that all-important final pit stop?
Yeah, you have to get to the end of lap 75. Absolutely have to get to the end of lap 75. And that's the critical lap number, to be perfectly honest with you, and that's a big save trying to get there. If you can go any longer than that, you probably fill the car up. But the benefit from that point forward is that you don't need to fuel save. If you can make it to the end of lap 76, you are good to home. Personally, I'm always filling the car in that position, but it just means that I can go harder. So again, it requires us to go green the whole way, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. But this might just be the run.
Important to note, the 15 of Jeffrey Kleinsma, we see him leading that outside line. He is, well, actually, he's now second in that outside line. He is currently a lap down. He is the only driver 1 lap down, so he would be the beneficiary of the lucky dog should we get ourselves a caution here. But trying to have himself at least up here at the front to make sure he remains eligible, just in case maybe some drivers that are off the pace could potentially get put a lap down this green flag run. He makes sure he bypasses them to still be that first car -1. The only other lap car that's out there on the racetrack right now is Jonathan Cogswell, but he is 2 laps down.
So, unfortunately, a tough day for a bunch of different drivers. Remember, Kleinsma had issues early on. By the way, I don't know if you've read YouTube chat recently, but there's a good old friend of ours that's made his way to YouTube chat, and Matt Wagner.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. Throwback here tonight.
Absolutely.
How about that?
Tom Bourne up there on the top side now with help from Jeffrey Vickery. That'll be the first lap led of the night for our winner from Dover. Dalton McKinney led a lap earlier as well. Kind of looking through the field of the drivers up here at the front, and only a handful of them have used their faster pair. McKinney in the 46, Mark Gonzalez in the 8. And Matt Davies in the 32. Most everybody else, they've had any type of damage during the course of this race. They've repaired it manually and still have that faster pair intact. Now we are going to go single file here for majority of the field. Only a trio of drivers up there on the top side. This is major fuel save mode now for these drivers, not wanting to run the risk of double wide, drafting each other back, consuming fuel, being that lead car of a respective line. Now everybody's basically just going to allow Tom Bourne to be the proverbial Pied Piper, set the pace here until we eventually get to that target lap about 15 laps from now.
Yeah, so again, this will all just be single file out, just run your pace. Like, the fact that we've got one car that's hanging out there solo and making ground, actually, it's Chris Hubker as he's rejoined the track, so he was having issues with being able to use that fast repair and return. He's now been able to do that, and he rejoins us 9 laps down, so he will not get back to the lead lap today. That's just... it is... Statistically, it's a possibility. Reality-wise, no, there is no way that he makes it.
There's at least 2 other drivers in front of him that are multiple laps down. He would need 13 cautions in these final 40 laps to get back on the lead lap.
Laps.
So Tom Bourne leading this group. A lot of Chevrolets lined up behind him. So one would have to assume now as well, once we eventually get to that lap 75 mark, Tom's going to be the play caller, right? As to when he and all those other Chevrolets potentially are all going to come down to pit road, because he's the one using up the most fuel being this lead car. He's going to have to be one of the soonest onto pit road.
One of the biggest things I'm just looking at, we'll get another update on lap times here in a minute. Bourne just ran a 50.5. Remember where we were talking about 51.6s just a few laps ago? So speed's improved by a second a lap. And this lap by they run a 50.9. So the speed's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So that might have actually been the lap where they drove around the outside. They had a little bit of a draft, a little bit of a push, and that's why his previous lap was actually a fair bit quicker. But back to the 50.9. So again, pace has fallen off. Everyone's still fuel saving. But if anyone wanted to push on and get to the front, they could just round these guys up, no problems whatsoever.
Something else I've noticed here, as opposed to our first 2 stages, and of course as well, the backing down of the pace could be contributing to this. We ended up having, on several of our restarts, a number of drivers kind of lose touch with the lead group and kind of ride around in a second or a third group all by their lonesome with about maybe another 4 or 5 drivers. Every single one of our lead lap cars up in this lead pack right now. Only 3 seconds, a little less than that, separating the leader back to the last car in the lead lap in 30th position. Tom Bourne ducks out of line, drops back to 4th, puts Jeffrey Vickery out in front, and we may end up seeing this be a pattern here leading up to that target lap of these Chevrolets kind of swapping that race lead back and forth. Vickery going to lead for a while. He may duck out of line, put McKinney out as the lead car. All this to try and get them to the same target lap to all come down pit road together.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? We're still 12 laps away from that. And Tom cycled to the front. He got his lap led. Now his cycle package. He just cannot afford to lead. Have a look at the guys all boxed in. The outside lane's starting to make moves yet again, and Chris Hubker is in a position where he's got excess fuel on board compared to the rest of the guys who's been so long on pit lane, so he's actually in a much, much better fuel position than everybody else. The problem, he's not in a track position style of race at this point in time, so he can get out there and he can push whoever he wants. In fact, he could go on a lap back if he really wanted. It probably wouldn't be too hard.
Hubka 10 laps down, up to speed with the fast repair, and we know he's got a fast race car with what he was able to do for the first half of this race, so he's kind of the proverbial X factor. Somebody could really call upon his services and his pushing capabilities here in the closing stages with the checkered flag maybe on the line.
Yeah, it comes down to which pack he's in, doesn't it? And when he elects to pit, does he elect to come to the pit lane with the rest of the pack as well? I think Gonzalez just popped out of line to cover off Holden, and he did. So again, swings and roundabouts. It looks like for a few of these drivers, they've already saved the fuel that they need to. So now they're starting to press on.
About 10 laps away from the fuel window being open to make it to the conclusion. Holden now making his way up to 5th, tucked down in line behind the Chevrolets. Might be waiting for that second line led by Hubka to generate a little bit of a run once again before he jumps up to that top side. And for Kyle Holden, you know, a great scenario here to kind of be a little bit aggressive in your strategy. Not only do you come into this race leading the point standings, you're coming off a victory last week at Bristol where he dominated, but also the driver he's battling for that regular season championship, Alan Dobbs, one of 4 drivers out of the race, going to finish in 27th. So a little bit of wiggle room to work with here for Holden, as kind of maybe felt that Daytona owed him one, having one of the strongest cars there at the World Center of Racing, and trying to get a little super speedway redemption here tonight at Dega.
Yeah, great opportunity for him to do so as well. Mark Gonzalez has now picked up Chris Hubka. You're going to see them start to come motoring around the outside. Jeffrey Vickery and Dalton McKenney in that inside line. It's a great opportunity for them to pick up some big points. And Ryland Facinato goes up, side drafts, and steals all that momentum away from the 8 car.
You know, it's funny, too, because we've seen Mark Gonzalez be strong at a lot of the racetracks this season, the speedways, the road courses. This is the first time this season we're seeing him at a super speedway. We didn't see him at Daytona. He made his debut back at the Chicago Street Course. So this is, in a sense, a super speedway debut for driver number 8.
I think he's equipping himself well. We're seeing a reasonable run from him. Big shot from Chris Hubka to try to put some momentum on him.
Just behind Hubka, you got CJ Papa, picked up his first stage win of the season back at the conclusion of stage 1. Just missed out on some stage points as well in stage 2. I believe he finished 12th at the conclusion of that one, but he's had a solid race car here this afternoon, looking to not only get his first stage win, but his first overall victory. I mean, look at some of the names we've got up here right now. You've got Vickery leading this race side by side with Gonzalez. You got Dalton McKenney there, Ryland Facinato, CJ Papa. You look a little bit further back there, Christian Ruse, Patrick McQuaid's back up in the conversation. I mean, we talked about coming into tonight, an opportunity for a driver to lock themselves into the playoffs with a victory. A lot of candidates up here inside of our top 10.
Yep, and now Gonzalez goes to the points. They complete that pass. And that makes me wonder whether or not the fuel numbers have been reached, or for a few of those guys that were leading for quite a long, if they're now in a bit of a hole.
Interesting point of note there, looking at a couple of these drivers like Mark Gonzalez, CJ Papa, Dalton McKenney, first, second, fourth. Those drivers came to pit road at the 1 to green under the last caution to get that little bit of extra fuel. That might be why they are able to be a little bit more aggressive, work their way up here to the top 5, and now are running inside of the top 4. Some of the other drivers I'm looking at here, like a Jeffrey Vickery, remember, he flipped the stage. When everybody came to pit road, they had run about 4 laps under green to the conclusion of stage 2. So if there's a driver that's in trouble right now, it would be that 21 car. Same for the 62 of Chris Reese. Those were the 2 drivers that elected to stay out, gain the track position, and flip the stage at the conclusion of stage number 2.
Yeah. And for me, that puts Jeffrey Vicker in a big hole. In fact, he's due to stop anytime now. He's actually gone 26 laps currently since his last pit stop. Caution assisted, of course. There's been 2 cautions in the middle of that. But I would expect him to be in either this time or the next time by, because he is tight on fuel for my liking.
Some of the other drivers that are up here towards the front that did not come down pit road to top off at the 1 to green. Pretty much 5th place on back to 9th. Facinato, DJ Daniels, Kyle Holden, Christian Ruse, and Patrick McQuaid. But they could have easily, under this run, been able to save. And there is the call. You called it right there. Vickery onto pit road. Probably going to see Chris Reese coming down pit road, if not this lap, the next lap as well. It's like Vickery by himself this time by, and now, if you're Jeffrey Vickery, you've got to be probably relying on a yellow, right? Because it's unlikely, being a single car, that you're going to cycle back out into a pack once everybody else's pit stop is complete.
You might get, well, there's only 1 pack, is the other thing. With all this fuel saving, there's not been enough speed in the track, and they are single file, trying to save that fuel as well. Pace is starting to come back up a little bit as well, up at the front. In fact, I actually just saw Brian Zimmerman's at his fastest lap of the race at 50.115. So he's moving, but he's at the tail end. So I think the pack is actually starting to tighten up. It's funny though, Seth, isn't it? When all of a sudden the racing stops for everyone to go into fuel-saving mode, all of a sudden the caution flags and the jostling and the elbows out a lot less relevant as well.
Which kind of is interesting, kind of brings a question of the fact that we know there's some drivers out here that still haven't used their faster pair. they're sporting a little bit of damage. Doesn't appear to really be affecting any of these guys too much. They've been able to stay up here in this lead pack, but
Well, someone's coming to the pit lane. I just heard someone. Was it 62? What number is the car that we were looking for to come to pit lane?
62, Chris Reese.
Tim, he's come to pits this time.
All right, so that'd be from the 11th spot. So he was able to make it, what, about 2 laps further than Jeffrey Vickery when those both were on the same lap coming to pit road on the previous stop. But, you know, if there's a couple of drivers here that have got maybe a little bit of damage, you maybe, with this potentially being the money stop, maybe take the faster pair on here and, you know, gain a little bit extra aerodynamic, or if your car is running okay right now, do you still hang on to that faster pair just in case, as you said, with us currently in a conservative mode and not seeing the yellow, once we start getting wadded up and we get closer to 20 to go, 15 to go, 10 to go, you might still want to have that mulligan in your hip pocket.
I always like having the mulligan, personally. That's just a personal approach to the racing, but yeah, I think look, there's a couple drivers with just a whisker of damage. I don't think that damage is going to impact them all that much. I'm just taking a quick look through the field, and in fact, I think we've actually got mostly clean race cars out here at this point in time. About the only one I'm seeing is a tiny little bit of damage to Chris Ruse, so he might take it. That damage I don't think is enough, but the other thing is he's running 2/10 back off of Kyle Holden at this point in time. So realistically, I think that's fuel saving, but yeah, I just don't see a world where they have to take it right now. The damage to none of these cars in the field is significant enough where they will lose the draft.
You saw him with the help of Patrick McQuaid draft right back up to the bumper of Kyle Holden. So to your point, he's pretty good right now despite that visible right front damage, as this next time by, lap 75 will go on the board, and we will be right on the cusp of these drivers being able to make it the rest of the way. And of course, all the pit road do's and don'ts. Don't slide your tires, probably one of those things, because I don't think anybody's planning on changing Goodyears. This probably is going to be fuel-only stops for all of these drivers. Make sure you get it down to pit road speed. You cannot afford a speeding penalty this late in a race. Very unlikely you're going to have a chance without the aid of a timely caution to get back into the conversation. And also, depending on how many drivers are coming down pit road with you, communication. Where are you going to be? What lane do you want to be? Some drivers like to be wide out towards the racetrack, towards that double yellow line. Other drivers like to be right down towards that inside wall. Make sure everybody knows where everybody else is going to be so you don't run each other over and have an issue, because not necessarily a guarantee if it's far enough down off the racing surface that your incident would bring out a caution-saving yellow.
Hubka Motorsports crew are coming this time. McQuaid, Gonzalez, and Hubka, I all heard on the radio. I didn't hear anything out of Christian Ruse, but he is coming this time. So they've hit their critical lap number. It is 25 laps to the end of the race from here. We are at the end of 75, and that's quite critical. The end of lap 75 means that there is 25 laps to go. Why? When you're talking about racing numbers, the number that's on the board is the lap number that you are currently on. So we're on lap 76 right now. That means we have completed 75 laps, but we are currently on our 76th circuit. So at the start of 76th circuit, we have 25 laps.
Had a couple of Toyotas coming down there as well with the Chevrolets. Saw the 32 of Matt Davies and the 19 of Peyton Holland. Here comes the second group down pit road. Oh, contact there! Dalton McKinney into CJ Papa. Hangs onto it, and the question is he going to get that thing woed down in time? He had his right sides in the grass.
That'll be an unsafe entry, unfortunately, for CJ Papa.
Oh, man. And I believe that is just about everybody else coming down pit road here that needed to.
And that's how tight it is on fuel, Seth. That's what I was saying. It's quite critical right here. And you'll see that these two, Mark Gonzalez, there's no way he'll lead. Hubka knows that he's off the lead lap and that he's not relevant to the overall finish here today, so he knows that his role is to punch that hole.
So these pit stops made to get us to the conclusion of regulation, correct? Because we do have 3 green, white checkers available. We don't have the fuel for those right now.
No, I don't think we do. If we were to see a green white checkers, I would say you're probably going to see about 75% of the field pit. So there'll be a couple that'll try it, but I do believe you're going to see just about the whole field pit if we do get a green white checker situation.
Dalton McKinney led that group off of pit road, and looks like he is going to cycle out to the front. The two-car tandem of Hubka and Gonzalez going to get the 8th to 6th position after all is said and done. So it's solid pit stop there for Dalton McKinney and that team. The problem is he looks in his rearview mirror and there are 3 Toyotas lined up nose to tail. No friendly face in a Chevrolet until you get to Chris Otto in the 5th position.
Yeah, and have a look at the drivers that are all connected up there as well. So the big thing was to connect up to be a part of this lead pack. And the problem is for Dalton McKinney, he's going to get no assistance from the guys that are in and around him. Why? They want him to lead every lap they possibly can. This group in a really, really good place to make it to the end of the race on fuel. But have a look at the 2 cars that tagged onto the back end. That is Chris Hubka, that is Mark Gonzalez. They need to go 25 laps on their fuel tank. The cars ahead of them, 24. So there'll be a little less saving from the guys that are ahead of them, but they also ran quicker pit stops. Crucially, Patrick McQuaid is making time on this lead group. So if these guys all kick over to fuel saving, that second group is pushing exceptionally hard. There's a very, very strong chance they reconnect.
Right now, Chris Otto in the 5th position is the highest running of the Dash for Cash drivers. Next car that he would have to worry about, I believe, is Matt Mettler, who's in that second pack, currently in the 14th position. But to what you were saying, if we end up having enough momentum in that second pack and enough fuel saving in this lead group, Mettler still will have a shot of getting up here into the conversation. Everybody was clean on pit road. The only driver that got hit, as we saw, CJ Papa with the unsafe pit entry. He is now 1 lap down. He is running by his lonesome in the 23rd position. So tough break there for our stage 1 winner. At this point in time, not going to get the finish indicative of how strong a Ford Mustang he had here this evening.
And he was in a great position. You're 100% right. He ran a great race, ran in some strong positions, ticked a lot of boxes here tonight, gave himself every opportunity to be in there. And to be honest with you, that pit stop, not on him. I think that one was on Dalton McKinney, who was directly in behind him. I'm pretty sure it was McKinney that made the contact. So McKinney's going to have a little bit of an enemy out there on the racetrack at this point in time. I know it's accidental and not intentional, but you need to do everything that you possibly can. Second group are changing it up on who they want to lead. They're actually side by side for the lead of the second group. I don't think they were happy with McQuaid leading.
That last time by, they were, looks like, what, 2.5, 3 tenths slower than this first pack?
Yeah. And they're still not sorted out.
No, they're not.
They are still side by side.
Jeffrey Kleinsman now going to get in front of Patrick McQuaid. It's Brandon Cooper up there on the outside line. Tanner Marr, Brian Zimmerman as well. This is a battle from 8th back to around 13th. The 32 of Matt Davies. And with them racing side by side like this, we talk about side draft. Side draft does not make you faster. It makes the car you're battling slower. So these guys are in essence dragging each other back, which is not allowing them to get the speed necessary to run down that lead group of, well, 7 or 6 lead lap cars along with the lap machine of Chris Hubka.
So it's funny you say that because the other side of the coin is that the cars actually run around the tracks faster in a group like this of 2x2, but you've got to have both lanes pushing very hard to make that actually correct. So technically, they actually are able to run faster, but not quite.
So what leads to that? Because the only thing I can possibly think of is if you're single file, you get a big run on the car in front of you, it causes a major checkup on the entry, and that kind of stalls your momentum through the corner.
I believe it's to do with air, like you're taking some of the air off the side. Effectively, when there's one line, there's a lot of air still hitting the cars from the side, whereas there's less side air hitting the, if you're on the bottom lane, it'll be the right-hand side of the car. If you're on the top lane, it'll be the left-hand side of the cars. That's about the only thing that I can think of. But I'm fairly confident that's actually what causes it.
It's funny because I know it's entirely different race cars. You mentioned our buddy Matt Wagner popping up in a YouTube chat, and kind of brings me back to that, the Dark Horse Racing Series, the IndyCar Series. I don't remember who the two drivers were, but there was a speedway race where they would actually keep crossing each other over, and in doing so, with side drafting each other that way, they actually were pulling away from the rest of the field. So it kind of puts me in mind of something like that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, completely different aero package with the IndyCars, but there is an element of that for certain. The big thing right now is that this second pack have got to get themselves figured out. They've shuffled Brendan Cooper to the head. Dalton McKenny's not going to get any assistance from CJ Papa, who is going to go another lap down here. But CJ's doing the right thing to make sure that these guys don't lose. Yeah, so he feeds in and he doesn't lose. Doesn't effectively wreck any of these guys. But the big thing is Brendan Cooper, Tenenbaum, Brian Zimmerman are now leading that second pack, and I believe they have actually made some gains. Not on the current lap, but on the previous lap they did make some gains. So
right now, it is Toyota versus Chevrolet. You've got 3 Chevys, make it 4 Chevys with the addition of Chris Hubka, and you've got 3 Toyotas. It's really been Toyota versus Chevrolet the entirety of this season. Those 2 manufacturers have gone to victory lane in every single race this season except for one, Daytona. That's where Ford broke into victory lane with Chris Reese. But right now, there is not a Ford to be seen. Highest running one, I believe, is Brian Zimmerman back in that second group in the 9th position.
yeah. And unfortunately for Brian, he's just not making bulk time. We're going to get another lap time as they pass here. And they did just take a touch of time out of the lead. I'm talking like a 1/10 of a second out of the lead group. So they did actually make some time right there. But again, this is supposed to be a fuel race, which is why this is really, really interesting, because the pace is now recovered.
See right there, Dalton McKenny started this race from 12th, currently running in 1st. I took the opportunity to just look back and see what his numbers looked like at Daytona. He started that race from the 8th position and brought it home in the top 10 in 6th. So some pretty good super speedway numbers to kick off the season. Looking strong here, trying to get that first trip to victory lane, but look who he'd have to hold off here as the Toyotas are lined up 2, 3, and 4. With multi-time winner Kyle Holden, DJ Daniels, a former winner on the season, and Trey Wright, who we keep talking about. We get the feeling he's not that far out from getting that first win on the season.
Got an update for you from that third pack. Took 0.3 of a second out of the race leaders that last time by. Margin was out to 5.5 seconds. It's now down to about 4.7, so they're starting to make some time. I'm worried, though. I'm worried for a couple cars in this. Dalton McKenny, I think we can start to put a line through him. I do not think that he can continue to lead. I think he needs to actually bail on this lead intentionally to try and see if he can shake things up. The problem is, as soon as he bails on that lead and goes to the back end of this pack, that next pack makes a whole bunch of time. Have a look at the gap from DJ Daniels to Kyle Holden. There is no energy being put on the 59 car, whereas the trailing pack are all pushing exceptionally hard. That then begs the question, can the trailing pack make the end of the race on fuel? They've been pushing exceptionally hard to bring themselves up and into contention, but the problem is, may not have the fuel to make it.
Brandon Cooper is now the new leader of that second pack. A Chevy behind him in Tanner Marr, a Ford, third in line in Brian Zimmerman. That last time by, Brandon Cooper, the leader of this pack, about 0.3 of a second faster than the leader of the front group, Dalton McKenny. And kind of going back to your point there with McKenny maybe trying to drift at the back of this lead group. The situation for him is this. If Holden, Daniels, Whitehead jump out of line, it's going to take some time for Chris Otto, Chris Hubka, Mark Gonzalez to get up there and help the 46. By the time they get there, Holden may be clear for the race lead. If he drifts back and is able to pick up those Chevrolets, get themselves lined up, they might be able to get something going that way to be able to challenge the Toyotas. But for right now, he's a sitting duck regardless of when and if Kyle Holden makes the move. There's just not enough time for him to be able to garner enough help to hold that top position.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's just, that's just the way it is.
This
so
Vickery gonna tuck right in front of this group, and this might have actually been by design. A fellow Chevrolet now going to lead this pack for Dalton McKenny.
Yeah, that's big. That is huge. I was just hearing on the radio as well from Tanner Ma, who's actually in the pushing position in that second pack. Exceptionally hot, so he is pushing as hard as he possibly can to try and bring that pack back into contention. They are continuing to make gains, and the problem is that they are laps short. They're probably about 5 to 10 laps short. They needed to be a touch closer, but if this pack ahead of them stops making time, because they all go back to fuel saving. The problem is, if that lead pack needs to fuel save, then the trailing pack's in much worse of a hole. They need to pit again, basically. So I reckon somebody here somewhere is going to make it on fuel, and there's a risk that we actually see several drivers and groups run out, and they're forced to come to the lane.
On board with Tanner Marr, you saw the shoving down the back straightaway from Zimmerman to Marr to Cooper. And a great point there by you as well in the fact, having to keep an eye on the water temperatures. You want to have those bumpers locked up as long as possible to have the tandem, but that pushing car is not getting any clean air through the grill to the engine and has to keep an eye, make sure that water temperature does not spike with a possibility of grenading that engine. You want to make it to the end, but you want to give it all you got in order to be in the conversation still for this thing.
Big lap for that trailing pack. They just took 4 to 4.5 tenths of a second out of the cars ahead. That brings the margin down. They're down to just over 3 seconds now. If they can get this down to about 1.5 seconds, and based upon that lap, they're every opportunity to do so. So it comes down to what pace the lead. This is all about what can the lead pack do.
So 1.5 seconds be where Cooper get that little sniff of draft of that trailing car of that first group? About then.
They'll just start to pick up a little bit of draft, and once you get a little bit of draft, it snowballs, you're in. So, but if they get back to, look, they're motoring again. They just took another 4 tenths of a second out. So we're a couple of laps ago they were making no gains. Now they're making huge gains.
Right now, only 6 lead lap cars in that front pack. If Cooper and company are able to latch on, that will double the field in size to 13 drivers in the conversation for this race win. And look at the X factors we've got in this as well. Vickery out in front leading this pack. He is currently scored on the tail end of the lead lap. Chris Hubka still in this group. Also a couple of Fords have latched on with CJ Papa and Mark Gilbert. So lot of potential pushing candidates to maybe play a factor into who's going to be the first one back to the start finish line when that checkered flag is waving.
Yeah, but first and foremost, you got to make the finish line.
Exactly.
You can't afford to push that car as hard as you possibly can and you run out of gas, right? So it's a little bit of seeing and sawing. I think the front pack still thinks that they're short, and the thing is, if the front pack thinks they're short, here goes a couple guys. Is that Hubker and Gonzalez? I think it is actually.
Like they tested the waters there, see if they could get the Toyotas to blink.
Well, that's going to break the pack up, because now they're going to start making decisions. And I think that's caused by that trailing pack starting to make time. So the margin to actually the lead pack is about 2.3 seconds at the moment, because you've got a couple lap cars, which are CJ Popper and Mark Gilbert. So because of those extra cars, even though the margin on the timing scale says 3.3-ish seconds, they're actually targeting those lapped cars in between.
Well, that move worked for Mark Gonzalez. He and Hubka were able to leapfrog Trey Whitehead. So now they've gotten those 3 Toyotas broken up. Now it's only Holden and DJ Daniels that are nose to tail with each other. And kind of to your point as well, when and if that second group catches, you know with the momentum they've got, they're going up to the top side. So for the case here of Hubka and Gonzalez kind of trying to leapfrog their way up through this field, it might be a case of them trying to establish that outside line here and now so they don't get boxed in when that second lane forms with that second group.
Yeah, so again, it's just the difficulties. The biggest difficulties is just reading. So Peyton Holman just jumped on the radio. He's actually just asking some questions. So just give me 2 seconds, I'll have an update.
Hubka jumping up to that outside line, gonna pick up Gonzalez and Otto. Try and see if maybe they can get DJ Daniels, drop him back and break those Toyotas up even further. Update on that second group. That last time by, they were another half second quicker, and you can visibly see them closing in with 7 laps to go. Your leader is the 46, that purple and yellow Chevrolet of Dalton McKinney.
Guess what, Seth? 1.5 seconds to the lap car of Mark Gilbert. They
There
are
we
now
go.
just about to start picking up those whiffs. The problem is, it's not actually the lead lap cars we're going to track here because all the lapped cars are at the back end of that pack. Chris Otto's just started dropping a little bit back in the pack, so I wonder whether or not he's still tight on fuel. The problem is, if these guys are going to run out of fuel, it's in about 3 laps. They really can't save. So once they catch this lead pack, they're basically just going to be forced to stall out. So this starts to get exciting. Have a look at McKenny, though. He's now up and on Vickery.
Tandeming down the back straightaway, and normally you don't want to be out in front by a big margin because that puts you in the sitting duck position, but with having a drafting partner in front of him in Vickery, might be okay. Hubka, Gonzalez able to swing around the Toyotas, and now Vickery headed for pit road. So that was why we saw him shoving the 21 down the back straightaway, because Vickery could not make it on fuel, had to pit. So McKenny was trying to gain as much distance as he could. Now he's going to get put 3 wide. Here come the Toyotas on the top.
Tried to block the top, should have stuck with the bottom. The top lane had the momentum, but Gonzalez and Hubka just abandoned him on the bottom as well. Here comes the gains. That second pack has joined. They are now officially in the draft. It's probably the start of next lap. You'll see them connect up, but they are going to arrive with momentum. The problem is, Seth, where do they go? You got 2 full lanes of race cars here right now, and a whole bunch of cars with differing fuel problems.
Now their options might, well, I was going to say their options might increase, but now we're back double wide again, middle of this lead group, as the Chevys will jump back up to the outside. Holden now out in front, DJ Daniels in second. I can't help but cast my memory back to the shootout that kicked off the season, the non-points event. It was a photo finish between these two at Daytona, and now they're nose to tail with 4 laps to go at Dega.
Oh boy, cars below the line. Let's not be doing that just quite yet. But they're joined. That second pack has now joined. Now the fuel question mark. Does Brandon Cooper have enough fuel? He's led this second pack for so long of it. Have a look at Kyle Holden. He's got enough fuel. The DJ Daniels crew, they all know they've got their fuel numbers. They've ticked that box. Everybody else we're not sure about. The block's high, the block's low.
That's Trey Whitehead blocking Chris Hubka on the inside. Now he'll draw alongside. No, instead, tucks back in behind DJ Daniels. Toyotas 1, 2, 3 trying to establish this race in the closing stages. We do have a couple of cars up ahead with Peyton Holland and Matt Mettler. We'll have to see if they come into the equation. Again, remember, we've got to get to the white flag for this race to be official. If not, if a caution comes out between now and then, we're going into overtime, and these drivers more than likely don't have the fuel for overregulation.
Well, think about it right now as well. Chris Otto leads the Dash for Cash. Does he know? Think about the cars out there at Dash for Cash that have been eliminated. Hubka swings high. Holden's now lost the race lead. And the 54 machine of Brandon Cooper moves into that top lane. He's going to give Gonzalez a huge shove. It's changing second by second. How's this for a super speedway finish?
Absolutely. And in the case of Chris Otto, he's the only driver in this lead pack that's on the lead lap with the Dash for Cash. Nobody right now in the same zip code with the 88. So big picture racing for him as he'll jump to the outside. DJ Daniels looks to cover. Here comes Trey Whitehead on the bottom. Help from the lap car of Mark Gilbert.
And Dalton McKenny's going to connect with Gonzalez. They go up the middle, and there was a late block, a very late block by Chris Hubka. I think he was trying to give Gonzalez a hand and actually connect back up with him. Have a look at the momentum. Everybody and their groups are getting broken up massively at this point in time.
Shoving in the center of the corner, Trey Whitehead had his hands full out of turn 2. Gonzalez will clear in front of him. Now it's DJ Daniels looking back at a trio of Chevrolets. Otto goes high. Blocked there. Brandon Cooper into the wall. Kyle Holden into the wall. We keep it straight. We keep it green. Thundering out of 4. Hubka loose. Into Dalton McKenny. Into Kleinsma. That's going to bring out the caution. We're going to overtime.
Oh, that got a little bit spicy, a little bit early. And who's got the fuel, Seth? Who's saved enough? Who was thinking about a green-white checkers? Hubka's machine is just destroyed.
Kleinsma got collected up in that. Dalton McKenny collected up. There's also got to be some right side damage on Brandon Cooper and Kyle Holden, who are up in the safer barrier entering into turn 3. They didn't spin, so no caution flew for them. This caution's going to be a big break for the 17 of Mark Gilbert. He'll get back on the lead lap here with this caution. Don't know how much ground he'll be able to make up in the closing stages, but let's go back all the way to the entrance of turn 3. First, see what happened to those two Toyotas of a couple of former winners, Brandon Cooper and Kyle Holden.
Oh boy, this one just spicy, spicy, spicy. It all comes from blocks left, blocks right, blocks through the middle, blocks low. And it starts there, but that's not what kicks off the caution. They save it. It's actually the next phase of it, and you got to wait, and that's the shot that actually ends up killing Chris Hubka. Everything else happens after that as a result of it.
Bunch of the Chevy drivers involved there. Patrick McQuaid in that as well. We documented Kleinsma and Dalton McKenney, as well as Chris Hubka. And this just comes down to basically, we're in the closing stages. Only way you're going to win or help the driver in front of you win is if you shove. And I think that shove in the center of the corner just kind of off-centered the 5 of Hubka.
Yeah.
We'll see it right here. Look how quickly Dalton McKenney gets to his back bumper and just gets him loose and he just can't hang on to it.
Hubka's trying to block and trying to stay in position there as well. By the way, we do have 2 cars that stayed out. Mark Gonzalez and Ryan Facinato.
Wow.
So the front row will be guys that may run. If we get a second green-white checker, they will not make it.
A driver that saw quite a bit of what happened there through 3 and 4 was Tom Bourne. I actually wonder if he and Brian Zimmerman may have also gotten some damage here after they had to slap the wall out of 4 to avoid the wreck. But watch here as Tom sees first the incident with the Toyotas, and then what happens further up here with Hubka and a bunch of others.
You can hear him just breathing the throttle, nowhere for him to go. Hey, that should be okay. That should be safer barriers saved him right there. And I'm just listening to Mark Gonzalez's engine, by the way. He is shutting it on and off during the caution, but not aggressively. So that tells me he might be okay.
So this our first attempt at overtime. We do have a maximum of 3 green-white checkers that we could utilize here tonight. Everybody that came down pit road for the most part, all just fuel only, just enough to be able to more than likely get to the conclusion if we go into that 3rd and final overtime.
Can we get an onboard shot from Rylan Facinato? I want to show you his dash. So just watch those numbers, watch the RPM, engine's off.
And Mark's coming in.
Oh, Gonzalez is going to pit!
He's coming in.
I think we get the lights off on the pace car here too.
Rylan Facinato coming into this race 22nd in points. Only 1 top 10 scored in his previous 8 starts. Hail Mary pass attempt here to pick up the victory at Talladega, clinch himself a spot in the playoffs. Question is, will he have the fuel? More than likely, if you're the 25, you're only banking on 1 overtime green-white checkered. I would be shocked if he has enough for a second one.
There's no way. I mean, he's going for it here, but if this works out, he's going to look like a hero.
And look at the positioning here, too. Chevy on the bottom, Toyota on the top. Row 2, Toyota on the bottom, Chevy on the top. So they're broken up. The manufacturers are broken up right there, kitty corner to each other. It's a catch-22, right? If you're Trey Whitehead, you've got to push the 25. If you're Chris Otto, you've got to push the 96, because in order to make forward progress yourself, you've got to push that car that's in front of you, regardless if it's of a teammate, a manufacturer alliance, doesn't matter.
Okay, so what we're going to do, Seth, yeah, I agree with you. The problem is it's difficult because of how they're lined up. And I think this is actually intentional from Facinato as well. Dash for cash drivers. Let's run through the list of them. Chris Otto sits 4th. He is still... I'm pretty sure he's the only driver on the lead lap.
I think you're right.
So at this stage, no matter what, he's okay. The problem for him, Matt Metler is another one of those drivers. He sits the first car 1 lap down. Peyton Holland is another driver in the Dash for Cash. He is also 1 lap down, so second place off the lead lap. From there on back, I believe we're looking for... Vickery and Kleinsmo are not in the Dash for Cash. CJ Papa is the next driver. He's 2 laps down. There's no way he's not in it. Chris Hubka's also not in it. And then John Cogswell is at 3 laps down. So literally, we need another caution. If we get no caution here, Chris Otto wins it by default.
Does Faccianato have enough fuel for just a little over 5 miles in length? Here we go. Green-white checkered attempt number 1.
Good launch. How much fuel does he have? And how deep can he take this one? If this goes to the start-finish line and we get a caution immediately afterwards, they're bobbling. Everyone's going for it at this point in time. All that fuel saving, all that clean running is now out the window.
If they pave it, they will use it at Talladega. You just can't go below that double yellow line. Slice and dice, and up to third lane goes Otto.
Here comes Otto.
Contact with DJ Daniels. Otto up and into the wall there through 3 and 4. If they get back to the white, race is official. If we wreck before then, we rack them up and do it all over again. Faccianato continuing to lead. Here comes Trey Whitehead to the outside.
Great opportunity. Trey Whitehead
Wreck in the back.
has looked so
Big
strong.
hit.
Wreck in the
CJ
back.
Papa,
No,
DJ
shoot.
Daniels.
And that'll eliminate Papa from the Dash for Cash. And I think Rylan Faccianato did lead at that point in time. But I just, Seth, I don't think he's going to have the fuel. I think he's going to abandon this.
That was not the caution he needed to see. Just a few hundred feet away from receiving the white flag. But we go into our second set of overtime. CJ Papa, car stalled down there. Just out of the tri-oval against the inside safer barrier. DJ Daniels was in the middle of that as well, as we'll take a look back and see what happened. DJ took a hard hit. That car went straight up into the outside safer barrier, along with CJ Papa, and we'll see who else may have been collected up in this one, right in the middle of the pack. Oh, 92 got hooked there of Ryan Catalano from Tom Bourne in the 16. Dalton McKenney collected up in that one as well. Number of these drivers did have their faster pairs still available. That's the good news. The bad news is a lot of track position going to be lost here.
Yeah. There's a couple drivers with good cars that are still in the race as well. A little bit of debate on the radio as well for Mark Gonzalez. The problem is that wreck happened. He had a black flag for something that happened. Might have been a restart issue, and the yellow flag basically flew as he hits pit lane. So because the thing for Gonzalez is if he gets onto pit lane, he's allowed to serve the penalty. I think the yellow flag flew with him within about 20 or 30 feet from hitting the cone.
See if we can time it here. There's the incident. We'll assume the caution flies right there. If we focus on the 8 of Mark Gonzalez, nowhere close to that commitment line. So in that case, what happens with Gonzalez? Does he have to wait to serve it when we go back green? Is it just a tail end of the field here?
Yeah, he will. It has been cleared. Controversially, it has been cleared by race control, but they're not 100% certain. So I don't know. There's nothing further that's been said about it. But he was so close to entering the pit lane. But the problem is, technically, he wasn't on pit lane.
I believe the 19 of Peyton Holland receives the lucky dog here under this caution. We'll have 18 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. Number of drivers on pit road getting some manual repairs done. Most notably Dalton McKenney, who got a piece of that incident. Had a great run going here, led a good portion of the final half of this race after the cycle of green flag pit stops. Christian Ruse is also on pit road for a lengthy pit stop, despite him being one of the drivers that I had listed still having a faster pair available. CJ Papa, saw him with That massive hit into the outside wall, getting squeezed up there by DJ Daniels. He's on pit lane. Patrick McQuaid also on pit road. Did have a couple of drivers come down pit lane here as well under this caution, including drivers involved in that incident. DJ Daniels, Ryan Catalano, Tom Bourne. They have all taken their faster pairs, and indeed, you see Trey Whitehead out in front, Rylan Faccianato. That caution he did not need. He had to come down pit road and top off the fuel tank. Could not make it the rest of the way without pitting here under this caution period. So now, bit of a facelift up here at the front of the field. Trey Whitehead going to be the control car, choosing the outside line. Tanner Marr, making only his second start on the season, will line up to his inside in second. Brian Zimmerman, another driver who made his debut last week at Bristol, will restart third. Matt Davies is now up in fourth. Chris Otto, who's firmly right now in control of that Dash for Cash prize, in the fifth position. Kyle Holden sixth. Brandon Cooper in seventh. Chris Reese, don't count out the Daytona winner. He's still hovering there in the eighth position with Larry Bell and Mark Gilbert. The rest of the top 10, Gilbert just got the lucky dog on the previous caution, and now he's in line to maybe bring that 17 home inside of the top 10.
Got a feel for Rylan Faccianato because we talked about Mike Gonzalez getting close to pit lane entry. We were, 2 or 3 seconds away from Faccianato getting back to the white flag. He wins this race on fuel strategy, instead buried in traffic in 10th spot now. So, but hey, he's still up and inside the top 10, still capable of taking that one away. Chris Otto does now have competition for the Dash for Cash. Peyton Holland is on the lead lap. He is 15th. He's behind all the lap traffic, and the reason he's that far back is because he picked up the lucky dogs, has to start at the tail end of the line. In fact, he's going to lose a few more spots.
It's not always in the cards, but this is Talladega. I remember a couple of weeks ago on a Tuesday night broadcast, a Truck Series race. It was a dual race at Daytona. White flag came out. The driver that crossed the line in 10th was the first one back to the checkered flag, getting through a massive wreck. So, wow, bunch of drivers back there from about 10th place on back to 18th. Right now, don't necessarily have that much of a shot. Still could happen if they're in the right place at the right time. Control car going to be that 23 on the top side. He'll have a Toyota and Matt Davies to help him. Inside line, a Chevrolet and a Ford nose to tail with Marr and Zimmerman. Overtime attempt number 2 here at Talladega, ready to get underway. Only one more overtime available as Davies not able to launch. Whitehead, he might be able to at least clear the inside line here, but he'll have no manufacturer help through 1 and 2.
Yeah, and now he's going to try and get some assistance. He's going to block high. He does manage to get the shutdown on
Oh, and there goes Davies!
Marr had Zimmerman. There we go. That'll be another yellow.
There's the caution. Brandon Cooper around as well. And now one more final attempt at a restart here at Talladega, as a couple of Toyotas go around there in the center of 1 and 2. Everybody should have enough fuel here now for this final restart. Let's go back and take a look what happened. I mean, Matt Davies just did not time that restart with the 23 of Trey Whitehead. They were separated at the word go. And I think that's what kind of got him into trouble as they entered into turn 1.
And this is all triggered by watch this block from Trey Whitehead. So this is all triggered from him. That causes a checkup. That causes everyone in the middle to go scattering. And Brandon Cooper looks for an open hole because, again, there's a checkup, right? And the checkup's caused by the block at the front. I did actually hear in the sim, by the way, that Tanner Marr actually said, oh boy, that was a huge block to Trey Whitehead. Hey, we're racing for a win out here. I respect it. So again, like I said, respect being shown, but at the same time, recognizing that, being aggressive. That's going to go into Tanner's mind now as he restarts second.
Watch the neon green and blue car to the inside, Kyle Holden. He gets a piece of this here. Right there. And there is some visible damage. I believe the hood's buckled up. Damage on that right front. Is that a cause for concern, do you think, if you're Holden right now?
Yes, but at the same time, last green-white checker, I'm not pitting.
And of course, as well, for Kyle Holden, has 3 victories this season. A lot of playoff points racked up. 54, Brandon Cooper, I believe, is not going to reach the conclusion as his car was stalled in the grass down in the bottom of turns 1 and 2.
Again, like I said, it's effectively Brandon's going, well, this is a restart. We're in overtime. I'm going for every hole that presents itself, and a hole presented itself, and the block was late. That's late race super speedway racing.
Looks like potentially the toe was broken there on the left rear. Also looked like some contact for another driver in Mark Gilbert, but he has stayed out, still maintaining his 8th position. I'm going to double check here on the 54 of Brandon Cooper. I didn't have him on my list of drivers that had already used a faster pair, but that was my mistake. He actually had used a faster pair, so by that extensive damage to the rear suspension of his car, no way he was going to be able to reach the conclusion, so that's why he's retired from the race. Patrick McQuaid is actually retired from the race as well. That happened within the last 5 minutes. So right now we're up to a half dozen drivers that will not be reaching the finish. We've got a couple of drivers still sitting on pit road and multiple drivers that are a lap down. We will have 16 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. I believe Jeffrey Kleinsma was the recipient of the final free pass here tonight.
I do believe you are correct on that one. Yeah, he is back on the lead lap. So we'll have 16 drivers on the lead lap here as we go back green. Troy Whitehead just said I'm choosing the top lane too, so he's going to be restarting on the outside. And critically, we're going to see a new winner here tonight. Unless something crazy happens and Kyle Holden skips through, we're going to see a new winner. That's literally the only way.
Right now you've got 3 former winners inside of the top 10. To your point, highest starter in Kyle Holden, restarting 5th. Chris Reese in 7th. DJ Daniels in 10th. And then the only other former winner on the lead lap, Tom Bourne, back in 11th position. So now with this being a final green-white checkered, this means now that we will run these final 2 laps regardless of what happens. First one back to the checkered flag will be the winner of this race. I was saying before on that last restart that Chris Otto home free as far as the Dash for Cash is concerned, but didn't bear in mind that the 19 of Peyton Holland got back on the lead lap, so Chris Otto cannot take this for granted yet, has to make sure that he keeps his car out of trouble on this final restart, because if he gets swept up in an incident, Peyton Holland could drive right on by and snipe this Dash for Cash prize.
Yeah, so if he survives and he loses a couple spots, he will win it, so that'll be a goal, but right now I don't think his mind's on that. A Dash for Cash is nice, but I really think that he is focusing on earning his way into a playoff situation, which I think for a lot of these drivers this is so crucial right now.
So regardless of if an incident occurs or not, we will not see another caution here tonight. Trey Whitehead.
Well, we'll see it.
Well, we'll see it, but we'll still race through it.
It'll just be the end of the race. That'll be the only difference.
Trey Whitehead had a great launch on that last restart. We'll see if he can do it again. Long ways back to a fellow Toyota and Kyle Holden. I mentioned about the fact back when we had that string of about 6-7 cars, there were no Fords in the conversation. All of a sudden, we've got 3 of them up inside of the top 10, so the Blue Ovals are not done yet, with Zimmerman, Reese, and Gilbert still up here. And how about Zimmerman and Marr and Larry Bell? We saw all 3 of them make their debut last week at Bristol, and all of them now running up inside of the top 6. What an incredible start it would be in their career here in the Grind Cup Series if one of those 3 could find victory lane in only their 2nd career start. iRacing pace car off for the final time. Trey Whitehead has been super consistent this season, but he's still looking for that first checkered flag. Getting ready here for the final green-white checkered in overtime tonight at Talladega.
Into the zone. Right to the end of the zone. They'll go green flag. Here they come to the start-finish line. Now there's 2 laps left to run. 2.66 miles by 2. Top to bottom, Trey Whitehead shuts down the run of Tanamar.
Outside line, not quite organized. Bell trying to push Zimmerman. DJ Daniels shoots up the middle. We're 4 wide down the back straightaway. Beating doors. Zimmerman gets turned off the nose of Trey Whitehead as Tanner Marr pulls away. Caution
Yellow flag is out, Seth. That's it. We're done.
Caution out. Race ends. Field frozen. Tanner Marr had his Chevrolet out in front at the time of caution. Second start of his career. And he will get his first checkered flag here tonight at Dega. Peyton Holland is bypassing the 88 of Chris Otto, which I'm not sure what the ruling's going to be on that. With frozen field, Otto would have been ahead of the 19 to get the dash for cash. The white flag, the caution flag displayed at the same time. Next time by will be the checkers. Larry Bell crossed the line in 4th. DJ Daniels in 5th.
They're gonna wait for the pace car. They were all driving their way back to the pace car. They're all going at a reasonable rate of knots, but Brian Zimmerman's got a quite a bent race car. He's trying to drive back up here as well. Trey Whitehead's going to come back towards the front, and Whitehead's already stuck his hand up and gone, this one's on me. So again, you know, the big winner, as usual, sportsmanship in this series.
It's the final restart of the night. You got to throw those blocks, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Trey Whitehead just 1 block too many in an attempt to get his first win on the season, and right place, right time there for Tanner Marr. He was on the bottom, everything migrated to the top, and he was able to work his way on through, be that first car out in front when that caution flag waved.
And yeah, he was just right place, right time. And for Tanner, again, he just did all he needed to possibly do. And for Chris Otto, he's going to pick himself up a dash for cash win. I think you mentioned it, Trey, about Trey Whitehead. Trey, 1 block too many. The first 2 blocks were okay, but it was that 3rd block where he got himself into trouble. He should have just come back to the bottom, stayed back to the bottom, and built some momentum. The problem was he kept shutting down momentum. Eventually, there's a pressure release that's going to happen. So it's sort of 2 blocks is about, sometimes if it's early enough, you can get the 3rd block in, but 2 sort of as far as you can kind of go.
Let's see if as we have the opportunity here before Tanner Marr will make his way back around to the start-finish line for celebrations. Let's see if we can take a look at what brought out this final yellow. They were 4 wide off of turn 2 down the back straightaway. DJ Daniels shoved it up the middle. They were door banging. They were leaning on each other. Something had to give, and unfortunately this was what happened as we focus on the 23 of Trey Whitehead. 28 of Zimmerman, gonna try and maybe go up there and block as well. And then everybody's just trying to squeeze their way on through. I think Mark Gilbert, he goes around, Cogswell gets involved. At that point, nobody's lifting.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the long and the short of it. And there was also 4 wide in behind them. How about that, hey? DJ Daniels recovers for a 4th place finish. How about Larry Bell? So we end up with 2 of the cars that are making their 2nd start of the season on the podium.
And the 3 drivers that all started together in their debut last week, all inside of the top 5. I mean, what a start here to the career for Tanner Marr. Last week we talked to him finishing on the podium, 3rd place at Bristol, and 1 week later he ups it 2 positions for his first checkered flag on the season. Now, it will be interesting. We are now 13 races into this regular season. There are going to be 17 more races before the playoffs are put together. It will be interesting to see.
Enough time.
You know, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, that's enough time because it's is it half the season? It's 75% of the season, so that'll be a discussion. It'll probably go on midweek, and we'll have some more details for you next week. But number 4 machine, Tanamar, and the Chevy is going to get a burn it down with him and the boys.
I'm trying to remember back. I don't know if Tanner Marr led any other laps other than that final lap. He was up there at the front, but I don't know if he necessarily got his nose to the start-finish line before anybody else in this race. And we talk about it all the time. Just have to be in the right place at the right time and lead only one important lap, that final one. And Tanner Marr able to do that here tonight for his first career win.
I'm gonna go digging on the stats on that one actually. Give you an update. Tanamar led 3 laps, but
Okay.
I believe they were 3 laps under caution.
Oh, alrighty.
Which so I would say it was laps 110, 111, and 112.
So that would have been just a little after our completion of the second stage there. Or no. That would have been the final laps of this race. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so that's when the pace car come out. Yeah, end of lap 110 was after the pace car was already out. Oh, okay. So what happened was Tanner actually led us back to the end of 110, and the reason what happened there is that he actually crossed the line first, but he was technically second place as Trey Whitehead was actually leading coming back to the green there, but he crossed the finish line. So
That
technically he
makes sense.
counts there.
Okay. But up front, when it mattered the most, closes out the deal for his first win of the season. Otto, great race for him as well. Strongest of the Dash for Cash drivers throughout the race. A lot of the other Dash for Cash drivers running into issues here tonight, but Otto kept his car pretty much clean. Brings it home on the podium, and he'll get a nice little cash prize for his efforts. Larry Bell, his first podium, as he brings it home solidly in third. You mentioned DJ Daniels, maybe an opportunity here to kind of springboard his momentum once again. Brings it home solidly in the fifth, or the top 5. Fifth position going to go to Brian Zimmerman. Trey Whitehead brings it home in 6th. Christian Ruse will be 7th. Tom Bourne in 8th. Peyton Holland, nice recovery after he got a late lucky dog to bring it home in 9th. And Dalton McKenney, I think he was involved in about 3 of the last 5 wrecks. Still soldiered on to finish inside of the top 10 in that 10th position. Ryan Catalano will finish the day out in 11th. Jeffrey Kleinsma in 12th. Rylan Faccianato, 1 caution too many for him to make it on fuel. He'll finish 13th, though. Kyle Holden back in 14th. Mark Gilbert will complete the top 15. He'll be the last driver to finish this race on the lead lap. Our Daytona winner Chris Reese will finish 1 lap down in 16th, along with Mark Gonzalez in 17th. Matt Mettler, Jeffrey Vickery, 1 lap down each, 18th, 19th. Jonathan Cogswell going to complete the top 20. Matt Davies will finish in 21st, 22nd for Brandon Cooper. I believe that Davies was the last driver to finish this race under power. Chris Hubka in 23rd with CJ Papa, who won the first stage, 24th. Patrick McQuaid will finish 25th. And then Johnny Williams, Alan Dobbs, second in points, 27th. Clifford Corveau and Dylan McDonald, who was slated to roll up the grid as our pole sitter, had early issues with connection problems and never was able to get this race going, finishing tonight in the 29th position. Well, next week, Darlington is where these drivers will be at. But here tonight at Talladega, we're getting ready to talk with our top 3 finishers. Let's see if we can dial up. Driver brings it home in the 3rd position and only his 2nd start here in the series. Let's see if we can get a hold of Larry Bell. Hey Larry, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
I do.
Great run for you here tonight. Kind of up and down through the field this evening, but at the front when it mattered the most. Bring it home solidly in the podium position, but 3 crazy overtime green-white checkers as well en route to get this podium finish tonight.
Yeah, it got a little crazy there at the end for sure. I had some trouble I don't know, 2/3 of the way through and lost the lead draft and got a lucky caution that bunched us all back up and gave me a shot at it. So that was pretty fun.
You know, when the field gets spread out like that, and you talk about the fact that, you know, you lost the lead group, you're kind of riding around and caught the caution at a lucky time, people don't understand just how painstakingly agonizing those laps can be for a driver, because every lap that ticks away, you're wondering, is this the lap that's going to take me out of the hunt? Is this the lap that's going to take me out of the hunt? How difficult is it mentally as a driver to keep your head in the game and still have a little bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, you've got enough laps to turn this thing around and still come out with a decent finish?
It can be tough because, like you say, you're in the back of your mind, you're wishing for that caution, and it can definitely take your focus away from what's happening around you. So it definitely, it takes some focus to stay in and just make laps and hope that that caution comes out for you.
In terms of the racing here tonight, Larry, I mean, new series, you've had to learn your way in and around a lot of people. Your introduction to the series is Bristol into Talladega. Rough old ride to come all the way here, but mate, you've got to be. The biggest thing is obviously you had to learn a lot about the drivers here tonight, but coming away P3, how's the racing been from your perspective?
It's been pretty good actually. I mean, again, tonight, there was a bunch of fuel savings, so it kind of settled things down in the middle section of the race and whatnot. And then, as always, at the end, it gets a little bit hectic and whatnot. But I'm enjoying myself in this league for sure.
Well, Larry, congratulations on the job well done. As Scott said, kind of a trial by fire. Bristol last week, Talladega tonight, Darlington, the track too tough to tame next week. But great run for you here tonight. Third place in your second start in the series. Congratulations on a job well done and sticking it out here to bring home the solid finish. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
All right. Yeah, I just want to thank the guys for putting on the series and you guys for putting on broadcasts for us. And I just want to thank my wife for allowing me to come out here and have fun and never complains. It's almost 8:30 here and we still haven't had dinner. So,
Well, Larry Bell, third place here tonight. Best of luck to you here for the remainder of this season. Go get yourself some dinner, and we look forward to seeing what you can do when we get next week to Darlington.
you bet. Thanks, guys.
Larry Bell, only his second start on the season, and nets his first finish on the podium. Let's see if we can dial up another driver who gets his first podium finish of the season. Second place here tonight and gets the Dash for Cash prize. That's Chris Otto. Hey, Chris, it's Seth and Scott up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, sir. I got you. How you guys doing tonight?
I'll tell you what, race of attrition here this evening. Even hit all the Dash for Cash drivers, but not you. You were able to keep your car clean, stay up there at the front, keep yourself in the conversation all night long. Congratulations. First off, you are the winner of the Dash for Cash prize here tonight, but more importantly, bringing it home on the podium. Chance to be able to get this checkered flag as well. Do you have anything there maybe for the 4 if we hadn't had this caution come out to end this race under yellow?
Yeah, I think I had something for him for sure. I mean, I was just going to stay locked on his bumper until pretty much I either was about to blow up or somebody was coming to my outside. So I was going to keep pushing him until we got back around to the checkered flag and then try to pull out and make my move there. And then I thought to myself, well, they're getting a little dicey back there in the mirror. So when I see someone start to get sideways, I'm going to pull out and see if I can get around him. But I just didn't quite get around him in time. I didn't see him get sideways early enough. So didn't quite get around him, but he did a good job there at the end of the race there, and I'm just glad I got it through it cleanly. Didn't have a 100% clean race. Had some internet issues there in the middle of stage 1 for some reason, and got turned off of 2, and then managed to stay on the lead lap and then come back and finish second. So I'm very happy with that, and also winning the Dash for Cash.
You know, with being at one of the
Chris.
6... Oh, I'm sorry, Scott. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead. I was just thinking in terms of points situations. Were you thinking about that coming in here tonight? I mean, this was probably a big race for you. Dash for Cash points and keeping yourself relevant in terms of the playoff standings as well. You're on the outside looking in at the moment, and it's a little bit tough in there? Were you just looking for a win and hope that you could track down the playoff spot from there? Or was that going through your head at all?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, yeah. I had moved recently and a lot of crazy stuff going on in my life, so I haven't been able to run as many races as I would obviously like to. So that kind of took me out of any playoff potential without a win. So yeah, it was in the back of my mind. But at the end of the day, I also just wanted to come home with a clean car. I have terrible luck on super speedways and in league racing in general. I've just had terrible luck recently. So I just wanted to get through one of them cleanly and have a good result at the end of the day. Whether it was winning the Dash for Cash or not, just having a clean race and a good result is really all I was looking for coming into the night.
So with that being said, that was going to kind of lead into the question I was going to ask you. How much were you keeping track of where the other Dash for Cash drivers were at, or was that not really something that was at the forefront of your mind in this race?
The only time I really kept track of where they were was under caution, just to really scroll through the standings, kind of see where they were. But during the race, I mean, if I saw a green spoiler in front of me, I knew where I needed to get to. But at the same time, it wasn't really that big of a deal until we got down to the last 10, 15 laps. And at that point, they were all a lap down or more by the time we got to the closing laps of the race. And I think the 19 got back on the lead lap with the second to last or the last caution. So he was the only guy I was really worried about there towards the end.
Chris, congratulations on the great run here tonight, bringing it home solidly on the podium, and of course as well, bringing home that Dash for Cash prize here with the podium finish here tonight. Job well done, kept that car in one piece, and the conversation for this win in the close of this crazy Talladega race. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
I just want to thank you guys. I mean, you guys do a great job on the broadcast, so it's always good to go back and watch, kind of see what was highlighted and go through the wrecks and see what other people could do better, what I could do better. And Hubka and all the admins in this league for putting on the league, making it run. They do a great job. And then just my fiance. I mean, she doesn't always like when I get on a game, but she lets me do it sometimes when I want to race because one of my favorite things to do. So I appreciate her for letting me do that.
Oh, Chris Otto, second place here tonight, and he is your Dash for Cash winner this evening at Talladega Superspeedway. Congratulations once again, Chris, and best of luck here the remainder of this season.
All right, thank you guys.
And before we talk with our race winner, just wanted to amend one of the statements I said before we talked with him. I said that was his first podium finish. That's actually incorrect. This is his second place finish. His other one back at Daytona. So I have a feeling if the 88's in the field when we get to that regular season finale at Daytona, might have to look in the direction of that 88 car. He's got some pretty good numbers here at the Super Speedway so far here in 2025. So does this driver. In only his 2 starts so far this season, he's netted a 3rd and now a trip to victory lane. Let's dial up tonight's race winner, Tanner Marr. Hey Tanner, Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you, brother. How you doing?
Man, I'll tell you what, last week, Bristol, your introduction to this series, you bring it home on the podium in 3rd. Here tonight, inside of the top 5 in the closing stages, front row on those final 2 restarts, and right place, right time, caution flies, you're the one out in front, and you're bringing home only in your 2nd start, your first checkered flag of the Grind Cup series. You had yourself positioned right where you needed to be. If we had run green to the end, though, could you have held them all off?
I don't think so. Chris was stepping out on me coming out of turn 2. He mentioned to me he saw him wrecking, so he knew the caution was flying. I told my teammates, I think if we went 500 more feet, I'm probably 2nd or 3rd in the whole ordeal. So got lucky. Lady Luck's been on my side. She was riding with me shotgun last week at Bristol, and she was for sure riding with me tonight.
Man, I know you had such a strong run going last week at Bristol as well, but new series, new league, there was a lot of love for you out there. And how are you finding the settling in? I know I heard you on the comms as well saying, hey, Trey, that was just a big old block, but we're out here racing for victories. I respect it. I think you sort of fit right in well with that mindset as well.
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, right, any of us drivers like, oh, man, why'd he block me like that? But then you cool off, you do half a lap at Talladega, and you realize, well, we're still racing. We're all still alive. I know it may have wrecked a few guys behind us, but we kept going, and the last 2 weeks Trey took care of me at Bristol numerous times. So I knew when it came down to it, he was going to race hard, but it was going to be clean, and that's what he did. It was a block, but I would have done the same thing in his shoes.
A lot of momentum here in your first two starts of the season. A difficult track at Bristol, a track where you have to be good and lucky at Talladega. Next week, this racetrack's been given more nicknames than I can count. Darlington Raceway. So with what you've been able to learn here in these first two races, what's the confidence level heading into that historical racetrack?
You would think coming off a third and then a first, I'd be confident, but Darlington's one of the tracks I struggle at most. Any track we're up next to the wall, just grinding them out lap after lap up next to that wall. Seems like a mistake, a small mistake turns into a big one pretty quick. And yeah, I'll be happy to get a top 10. That'd feel like a win at Darlington.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you're able to carry this momentum into that racetrack next week. We'll let you get back to your celebrating here with your first checkered flag in the 2025 season for the Grind Cup Series in just a moment, Tanner. But for now, we're going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
I appreciate that, Seth and Scott. First of all, I want to thank y'all boys for calling the race. I know y'all probably want to be out here racing, but instead you're broadcasting it for us, so we do appreciate that. I want to thank RaceCPI.com, Tyler Payne and the boys, always providing us setups when we need them. And all the guys at Five Kings Motorsports, my teammates here tonight, Zimmy and Bell. I know they finished third and fifth, so having 3 of the Five Kings guys in the top 5 feels really good. So shout out to them boys for being there with me to the end.
Tanner Marr's second start of his career here in the Grind Cup Series and his first checkered flag as he takes the victory here tonight at Talladega Superspeedway. Congratulations, go enjoy this victory, and best of luck next week at Darlington.
Thank you, boys. We appreciate it.
What an incredible race here at Talladega. A little bit of everything. We saw some aggressive racing at the close of the two stages. Saw 2 first-time stage winners in CJ Papa and Matt Metler, so they'll have a valuable bonus point each as far as the playoffs if they advance into the postseason. And this race, I think this is the first time here, Scott. I'd have to look back and see if we had to at Daytona, but I don't think we did. I think this is the first race where we had to utilize all 3 of our overtime green-white checkers, but it's Talladega. We said it at the beginning of the night. It's a wild card race. It's an opportunity for a lot of drivers that may not necessarily find themselves in the top 5, top 10 consistently each week to be able to snipe that checkered flag and maybe clinch themselves a spot in the playoffs through a win. A lot of them went for it here tonight in those closing stages.
Yeah, aggression to the max. I mean, you can understand why Trey Whitehead's throwing those blocks. Tanner has said, we're out here racing for a victory. But for Trey, I think it meant a little bit more than that. I think the reason that he was as aggressive as his was had a lot more to do with this is one of the best opportunities that he's likely to see when he gets down to these late race moments. He just finds himself on the back foot in a little bit of a hole. So his aggression tonight reflects that mindset. There could be an element of frustration in there from him, and you'll see how he responds to that next week. But you also heard from Tanner, like last week, first time I met the guy, first time I've raced along the guy, and he looked after me. He raced me clean. So look, I'm disappointed for Trey. He races aggressive, he blocks hard, and he'll reflect on that. But yeah, I was sitting here just waiting for Trey to win that one tonight, or Chris, or just anyone. Tanner was not on my list of guys I was watching to win it. He was there, he was in with a shot. But yeah, just what an interesting race. Like normally, I struggle to sit there through a super speedway races. They're not my favorite thing. I enjoyed that one tonight.
Absolutely, and again, it will be interesting to kind of find out where this could possibly put Tanner Marr in potential playoff conversation. Is there a start limit? Does he have to be in a certain position in points? We'll get that information for you when we get to next week. The unpredictability of Talladega. We now shift gears to the characteristics of Darlington. And, we talk every week about the usual facets. We talk about tires. We talk about fuel strategy. We talk about positioning. I think next week, a big word that we're going to be talking about a lot is limiting mistakes, because we heard it right there from Tanner Marr. He said, you make one mistake, you get up there into the wall, that could be your race done. This racetrack, as we said, it's called the Track Too Tough to Tame, the Lady in Black. The reason is because this is a racetrack that a lot of drivers go into not only with the goal to win, but maybe more so the goal to survive. You survive, you're probably going to come out with a decent finish. You don't survive, you're going to be giving back a lot of points that maybe you were able to garner here at Talladega. So a lot of drivers going to be on pins and needles, I think, when the green flag flies next week.
Yeah, for sure, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting one as well. It's a race that you come out of a super speedway and you go into that one, you go, oh, this is going to be a little bit tricky. But think about what racetracks we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. Not only do you have Darlington in that egg-shaped style racetrack, you've also got Gateway coming up, another egg-shaped style racetrack, and Gateway's got a few extra elements as well. So the next month and a half worth of racing is actually going to be really the schedule's very tricky to read who's going to have speed because it follows no sort of set rhythm, and I really like the spacing and the timing of this one.
It's going to be a tough trek for sure for all of these drivers. Be interesting to see what happens next week as we continue on this regular season, pushing towards halfway when we'll start to talk about those playoff positions down the home stretch towards the final super speedway race of this regular season, the regular season finale at Daytona. But a first-time winner here tonight, Tanner Marr, taking the checkered flag at Talladega Super Speedway. We thank you all for tuning into our coverage here tonight of the Grind Cup Series. Hope you all enjoyed it. Next week, next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are at the Track 2 Tough to Tame, known as Darlington. Be sure to join us for that one. Tomorrow night, it's the start of the 65th season for the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series at Talladega Super Speedway. Green flag flies there at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And next Monday night, we've got the second race of the season for the Rolling Thunder Gaming Barebones Racing Series as well. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time also. For my colleague Scott Rankin, I'm Seth Cole. We appreciate you joining us here on this Wednesday night. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast this evening on FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.